Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz. Today is Tuesday, so it's What's Wrong with the Bible Tuesday, where we actually read this. I'm going to read the book to deconstruct. We read to deconstruct. We study, we read to deconstruct. That's what we do. That's what we are doing today. We give about 5 minutes for you let people get on to the live, and then we'll get started. While I get my cigar ready. You find me for the first time, that is what we do. We deconstruct from religion, as well as build ourselves up. Get my cigar ready. Gotta get ready for the show. I got too much stuff in my way. Grand Rising, let me know. Let me know who you are when you come in. My peoples. Let me know who you are when you come in. We had a really good show yesterday. Wound up being more of a debate show yesterday than a regular show, which was fine. It's fine, no problem. Good, respectful conversation. It's always enjoyable when it's a respectful conversation. So I have no problems with that whatsoever. I see we coming in. Grand Rising, good people. Hey, Louisa, how you doing? I gotta check something. Gotta have a drama without the sound effects. Okay, I'm good. Had to make sure something was situated in real quick. Hey, yeah, we are. If you missed yesterday's video, it was pretty interesting. We had a young man come on, Ray, Christian, wanted to defend his position. Of course, he'd think I was wrong, but I don't think it went so well for him. I don't think it went the way he expected it to go. Grand Rising, Madeira, Kalamazoo. Let's see. That's all right. So Mrs. What's MI? Don't tell me what MI is. So that's got to be Missouri. But Mississippi is MS, right? So you're in Missouri. Oh, Michigan. I'm all off. I forgot about there was another M. So MI is Michigan. MS is MO is Missouri. All right. Kalamazoo, Grand Rising, James. Hope y'all are having a great week thus far. Me and my sinuses are fighting each other back and forth. So if I cough every now and then, it ain't because of this. It's a dang on sinuses. We were fighting last night and this morning. Some fall tree or whatever here in Georgia just be messing folks up. We're in it to win it. So if you've missed out on some of these Tuesdays of What's Wrong with the Bible, you can always go to the YouTube channel, which is Lorenzo Reed. I'll put it in the comment. You can always go to the YouTube channel, go to the playlist, and then you'll be able to catch up or just watch those ones, however you want to do it. So if you missed them, that's the YouTube handle. Go to the playlist and you'll be able to catch up and go through Genesis and Exodus, because this is the last chapters of Leviticus. This is the last chapters of Leviticus. Yay. We are plowing through it. And I just realized something. I didn't put this one. I didn't put last week one in the playlist for Leviticus. I'm like, you missing some. So I do want you to be able to catch up. And like I said, the main purpose of this, it's to help us and other people continue to deconstruct from religion, specifically Christianity. And for my other videos, I would appreciate if you guys would go out there, like and share those videos. It would be greatly appreciated. If you would like and share all the videos, especially share the videos from that I post after the show. All of those, I greatly appreciate that, because that's what moves the needle. That gets more people on the channel. That grows the tribe. We've been finding that some people have been finding people that's near them, close to them, same city, whatnot. And we need to be able to connect like that. And Grand Rising Michelle in Canada. British Columbia, Canada. All right. Yes, I like the fact that we have international flavor. We get that international flavor. Texas Goddess, how you doing? I will be contacting you today. I'll be contacting you today, so no worries. I don't know what you think I did. I meant to send you a message before I started this today. Orlando and Phoenix. It's a great cigar lounge in Phoenix called Fox up in Scottsdale. Yep. Fox Cigar Lounge. I like that place. Actually, if I were to stay in America, Phoenix is one of the places I wouldn't mind moving to, or Scottsdale in particular. But I can move to Phoenix. But we are past the 5-minute mark, so we are about to get started with What's Wrong with the Bible. We are in Leviticus 26 and 27, the last two chapters of Leviticus. And like I said, if you've been missing them, you can go back or hit the playlist. I do see I need to add some of the other ones to the playlist, which is kind of messed up. I didn't even realize I didn't do that. That they're not part of the playlist. But that will be rectified very shortly here. We'll put them in the playlist. I know the birds are very loud today. I was on the phone earlier. The birds are so loud. Like who I was talking to on the phone, they could hear all the birds. Yep, Michelle, cognitive dissonance is real. James, done 31 years lockdown and overstand the ignorant state we are under. You good in your knowledge. Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's get started, because after we finish the reading and breakdown of these two chapters, then the doors are, like they say, the doors of the church are open for any other type of conversation that we may talk about. We are going to see a contradiction in this one, but if you guys were yesterday when I was talking about the fact that this religion is almost it's like an abusive relationship, and in this chapter, these two chapters, as it finishes out Leviticus, we're going to really be able to see how this is an abusive relationship. And people have Stockholm syndrome effectively because of the abusive nature of this relationship. So let's roll. So when people say we got a relationship with this guy, yeah, you got an abusive one. One bent on you're going to get punished all to be damned. So 26 starts out. You shall not make idols for yourself, neither a carved image nor a sacred pillar shall you rear up for yourselves, nor shall you set up an engraved stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am the Lord your God. Now, I've always found this one interesting. Of course, this is repetitive as hell. We know how repetitive this book is, and it's continuously repetitive. But I want you to think about something. When Christians was use that one part where it says to bow down to it, but when you go to places like Israel, I will give them the credit. The Israeli Hebrews, the Hebrew people, period, they will not have stone glass imageries of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. They won't have any statues whatsoever. This is the thing that made them gave Rome such a problem, is the fact that they wouldn't accept the Romans putting a statue of Caesar inside their church, their synagogues. And so the Romans, thought that they were being disrespectful, to the emperor, to the Roman government. But you go around all these Christian churches today, they got the stone glass, they got the doves, they got you go to the Catholics, they got the statues of Mary and all these different things. They have all of this. I'm gonna get to your question, Rob, Kara, in a minute. But they have all of those, and because that's part of this. So, but even when you look at it, we put statues up of people who lived. I know I did that little video about them taking down the statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. We're taking them down and moving them, put them in a library or private collection. But according to this religion, you shouldn't have statues of nothing. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not like you take that down and you replace it with something else. There should be no statues. There should be none of that, because it even says that you rear it for yourselves. And it says, nor shall you set up engraven stones in your land to bow down to. But the first part is breaking down, saying you shouldn't have sacred pillars, images, nor sacred pillars you rear up for yourselves. So even back then, they should not have the different pillars of stone in order to put the figurines of their deities on, because that's what other people did. But if you go to Israel and you go to the ancient Israelite temples that were built before Hezekiah, you will see that they had pillars. Especially the northern kingdom of Israel, compared to the southern kingdom of Judah, they had pillars. One pillar was for Asherah, another pillar is for what's the name? Yahweh. So these kinds of lines are put in there because they're historical, is why. When you look at it from as we was talking about yesterday, the context of the people for that day, it was based on Hezekiah and them saying that this is what the old Israelites did. This is why they were punished so much. And so this chapter is really trying to give them an understanding of why their past happened, why the Israelites prior to them were always conquered, were always being taken advantage of, losing battles, why the northern kingdom of Israel is now inside of Babylon, have been captured inside of Babylon. Their walls have been down. The people are jacked up. The worst of the worst are the only ones that's in the city that were still in Jerusalem at the time. So this is a warning to the southern kingdom of Judah as to why we got to get our shit together, and worshiping this deity. So you'll see that throughout this. And you say, why are humans such a glutton for punishment? We tend to focus on the negative more than we focus on the positive. And because of that, we expect more of the negative than the positive. And then what we expect is what we normally get. And even though we'll say that we don't want punishment, we don't want the worst things in life, we focus on it so much that that's what we consistently and continuously get. Because the majority of people's lives are not, the majority of people are not living the life that they truly desire to live. And they're always in lack and wanting. So we create our own punishments because that's what we focus on. And we've been taught to focus on that. This book people will read this book and focus on the good stuff, but I will say the good stuff and think and in front of your face, be like, oh yes, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. But they expect the worst part, and they're going to focus on the worst part, and that's what they're going to get. All right, so continue with some more repetitive stuff. You shall keep my Sabbath and reverence my sanctuary. Oh, shit. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I knew there was something I wanted to do before this video that I wanted to see if I can make it work on this program. Because I was going to do a video about this later on today. Where did I see that? Did I lose it? Did I not save it? I didn't save it. Oh, hell. Wait a minute. Let me check one more place to see if I saved it. There was this thing that I wanted to. I didn't save it. Because basically it was a pastor who was simulating like he was jerking off with a rod inside the sanctuary. And it just popped in my head when he said this part, you shall keep my Sabbath and reverence my sanctuary. And some of the antics that these preachers are doing inside the so-called sanctuary, and they're doing them to show how bad people are. But I'm like, y'all are just as bad. You shouldn't even be doing that in there. Now, I don't know about that part, Michelle, because even before colonialism, most nations and people were still patriarchal, even before colonialism. You look at most ancient cultures, there are some were more balanced than others. Grand Rising Healing Light. Now, some more balanced than others, but men, for recorded history, men have been overly dominant in this world, and this chapter just makes it even worse. So let's continue in 3. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and perform them, then I will give you rain in its season. The land shall yield its produce, and the trees of the field shall yield its fruits. Your threshing shall last till the time of vintage, and the vintage shall last until the time of sowing. And ye shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in the land safely. I will give you peace in the land, and I shall lie down. You shall lie down, and none will make you afraid. I will rid the land of evil beasts, and the sword will not go through your land. You will chase your enemies, and they shall fall by the sword before you. 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 shall chase 10,000 to fight. Your enemies shall fall by the sword before you. For I will look favorably and make you fruitful, multiply you, and confirm my covenant with you. You shall eat the old harvest and clear out the old because of the new. I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. I will walk among you and be your God, and you shall be my people. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that you should not be their slaves. I have broken the bands of your yoke and made you walk upright. So it sounds good. This deity obviously has the power to determine whatever your harvest is going to be. So he can make it rain. He can make your harvest grow. Put a barrier so that the wild beasts do not come and live in your land. I mean, he's going to keep the animals out. It all sounds good, right? Sounds like a good deal. But what is the caveat? The caveat is you got to walk in my statutes and keep my commandments. So that means if somebody works on the Sabbath, you got to stone them. because that's keeping his commandments. If your children are disobedient, you got to stone them. So if any of these, am I about to get a delivery? So in these stats, so in all those things that we've been reading in Leviticus before about how you're supposed to reverence this God, the sacrifice, the animal sacrifices you're supposed to give. You're supposed to do all these things. I'm not stopping. You're supposed to do all these things in order for you to be able to receive all of this. Now, in most cases, this sounds similar to a situation where you have a dominant person who is promising you that you're going to get all these beautiful things as long as you keep my house clean, as long as you keep the kids a certain way, as long as you spend the money a certain way, keep yourself looking a certain way, walk through the house a certain way, keep the noise level a certain way. As long as you do exactly what I tell you to do, then I'm going to give you all this bounty, right? This is a controlling narcissistic mentality. You know, when I was reading this part earlier, my thought process was, people will say that this is God's love. But if you love something, then you love it enough to let it go free. If it desires to come back to you because of your love, then it'll come back to you because of your love. But if you have to force your rules on it in order for it to love you and to stay with you, then is that real love? Because what are we going to get into right after that? 14. But if you do not obey me and do not observe these commandments, not wishes, not things I would like for you to do, the type of people I would like for you to be towards me, not I ask you to do something and you decide on your own that you're going to do it. But if you do not obey me and do not observe these commandments, many people say it's just like living in your parents' house and they have rules to follow. But it's more like, after I read this part, Hidden Light, this is more like living in a physical abuser's house. I want you to hear this part. But if you do not obey me and do not observe all these commandments, and if you despise my statutes, and if your soul abhors my judgment, so that you do not perform all my commandments, and you know all means all, and that's all means, right? But break my commandments, I will also do this to you. Grand Rising Jeremy, it has been a bit. It depends on which Native American group you're talking about, Michelle, but yes, some of them did. I will also do this to you. Now, does this sound like parents? Or does this sound like, in most cases, an abusive spouse? I will even appoint terror over you, wasting, disease, and fever, which will consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart. And you shall sow your seeds in vain, for your enemies shall eat it. I will set my face against you, and you shall be defeated by your enemies. Those who hate you shall reign over you. You shall flee with no one to pursue you. And after all this, if you do not obey me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. I will break the pride of your power. I will make your heaven. Now, hold on. I will break the pride of your power. Does that sound like a parent, or does that sound like an abusive partner? Because a person who wants to control somebody they have to break their power. Let's use an extreme example. A pimp to a streetwalker, he breaks her power. In order for her to consistently do what she does and give him her money. People are leaving because they're waking up from this. But think about that. Parents don't usually break the power of their children. If anything, parents, even in their discipline, look to empower their children. A good parent, definitely. But I would say most parents look to empower their children, even through the various forms of discipline that they have. But this one is, I will break the pride of your power. This is what a controlling spouse does. That's what a controlling spouse does. Wasting diseases, gonna blind you. You're gonna be, all your enemies gonna go against you, but it ain't over. It ain't done. I will make the heavens like iron and your earth like bronze. Now, the Bible readers always get me a little bit on, the Bible writers. It's like, did they read what they wrote earlier or what other people wrote earlier? Because in Deuteronomy 28, when it's talking about what God will do if you disobey him, they switched this part up and it says that he will make the heavens like bronze and the earth like iron. Now, I know some people may say that's a minor discrepancy, but here's the thing. You're supposed to be the perfect inerrant word of God. So there should be no minor discrepancies, right? It should all be perfect. It should be the same. If Deuteronomy is repeating these punishments, should those punishments still not be the same? Did this guy get confused and say, well, what did I tell him in Leviticus? Because now I'm in Deuteronomy and I know I'm talking to the same damn people. So did I tell him that the heavens was going to be iron or the earth was going to be iron? Oh, hell. Ain't nobody going to notice. Guess who noticed? We noticed. We did. We certainly noticed. I'm pretty sure somebody like, you're taking that out of context. No, that's what it says. All right, to continue. And your strength shall be spent in vain. For your land shall not yield its produce, nor shall the trees of the land yield their fruit. So you're going to starve them out. Then, what parent starves out their children? Yeah, they must have forgot. This deity hates pride and haughtiness. He wants all the glory and praise to go to him. Exactly. That's why he's repeated this type of thing has been repeated like 15 times so far in this book, especially from Exodus to Leviticus. It's repetitive as hell about you praising him all the time and giving him everything. Oh, it's gonna get worse in the next chapter. Well, it's gonna be just as bad in the next chapter as the way he see people. Gets fruit. Then if you walk contrary to me and are not willing to obey me, I will bring you 7 times more plagues according to your sins. He already said he's gonna messes up 7 times earlier, and then 7 times more plagues. I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children. I'm gonna send wild beasts to eat your kids. If you good to me, if you obey me, obey my commands, I'll keep the wild beast out. But if you don't obey me, you don't keep my commandments, my statute, I'm going to send wild beasts to eat your children. The children. The so-called innocents. The children are supposed to be innocent. I'm going to send them. Anyway. I will send the wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children, destroy your livestock, and make you few in number, and your highways shall be desolate. Okay, that part, that last part, and your highways shall be desolate. I know that's to them, they mean that, that highway, it's talking about trade routes. You won't be able to trade with people because you ain't gonna have any animals. You're killing your kids. You ain't got no fruits, no vegetables. So I know they're saying make the highway desolate, so there's nobody on the highways. Okay, that one right there though. When I gotta go somewhere, like Friday, we driving to Wilmington, North Carolina. I could use some desolate highways. I could use some desolate. I don't believe in you, dude, but I could use some desolate highways on Friday, and then when we come back on Monday, especially on Monday, I can use some desolate highways. That'd be good. You want to get rid of traffic? We can get rid of traffic. I'm all right with that one. Y'all know I ain't right. God, the Bible is wicked and narcissist. I'm thankful that people are teaching it. Yes, it is. This is a very evil deity. All right, let me continue. Get away from my foolishness. And if by these things you are not reformed by me, but walk contrary to me, then I also will walk contrary to you. Notice how he's spending a hell of a lot more time talking about how much he's going to punish them than he spent on what good things he's going to do for you. See, that's what I'm saying. Focusing more on the negative. Look how much negative conversation he's having versus the good conversation. He's already doubled the amount of time speaking about how much I'm gonna punish you over how much joy and love and gift I'm gonna bring to you. But if by these things you are not reformed to me, but you walk contrary to me, then I will also walk contrary to you. And I will punish you 7 times. That's the 3rd time he tells us going to punish us 7 times for your sins. And I will bring a sword against you that will execute the vengeance of the covenant. When you are gathered together within your cities, I will send pestilence among you, and you shall be delivered into the hands of your enemies. When I have cut off your supply of bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall bring your bread by weight, and you shall eat it and not be satisfied. Now, I know what he means by that. I know what they meant by this one, that the cost of bread is going to be so high, and you're going to be dissatisfied because you're paying your inflation. But the foolish parts of me say, I'm sitting here chilling. I got 10 women in there cooking. They just bringing me weight, just bringing me bread, bringing me food, just lining up the dishes. All right. Don't pay attention to that part. That's not what that means. Yeah, if you want to say that, shall not kill, it is a lot of killing. Grand Rising, okay. But that's not what that part meant. I just how my brain went for a second. I was like, 10 women cooking bread. But he's saying that inflation is going to overinflate everything, basically. But he's still punishing. And after all this, if you do not obey me, but walk contrary to me, then tell me this deity is not trying to play with people's fears. Then I also will walk contrary to you in a fury, and even I will chastise you 7 times your sins. 4th time, and even I will chastise. You're the only one who said this, that you're going to do this 7 times in the beginning. Don't even know what you're talking about. But this is where it gets real nasty. And how can you worship this? 29 starts with, you shall, let me say this real slow, word for word. Make sure it's clarity. You shall eat the flesh of your sons, and you shall eat the flesh of your daughters. I'm going to starve you to the extent where you will consume the flesh of your children, that you'll become cannibals. And what parent is this evil? Sure, there are some evil parents, but this is a whole nother level. Simply by being disobedient. You shall eat the flesh of your sons, and you shall eat the flesh of your daughters. I will destroy your high places and cut down your incense altars, and cast your carcass on the lifeless forms of your idols. I don't know what carcasses you're going to be casting since people are eating all their sons and daughters. I will lay your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries to desolation, and I will not smell the fragrance of your sweet aroma. Bro, you got me eating my kids. You got the carcasses laying all on the idols. And you think I'm worried about you not smelling the fragrance of my sweet aroma? Now, that sounds a little sexual to me as well. That's the sweet smell, the sweet aroma. But we know how this God loves burning flesh. So even in this, he's saying that our flesh burning is a sweet aroma to him. I don't know if you've ever, it's an interesting phenomenon. We smell a cow burning, it might smell good to you. A cow smells a cow burning and it's disgusting. So we smell this dude, he's saying that burning humans is a sweet aroma to him, but he ain't gonna smell it this time. Yeah, he likes that flesh. I will bring the land to desolation, and your enemies who dwell in it shall be astonished at it. I will scatter you among the nations and draw out a sword after you. Your land shall be desolate and your cities waste. Then the land shall enjoy the Sabbath as long as it lies desolate and you are in your enemy's land. And then the land shall rest and enjoy its Sabbath. You know, here's the thing about this. Even one, you're so concerned about the land enjoying the Sabbath, but even when the Israelites were not in control of Israel, the land was still being worked. So even when I've heard Israelites say that, oh, since the tribes of Israel came, the Hebrew Israelites would say the black people that came on the transatlantic slave trade, the land still has never rested. It has still been in use. When the Caucasian Jews Israelites talk about how they were in Germany and so on and so forth, the land, and it was on the Palestinian rule, it was still not resting. So I don't know when this land is supposed to be enjoying this rest of Sabbath because the people were disobedient. And that's one of my things that I talk about when I'm debating anybody who's an Israelite. I look at this one and say, okay, so you say that the World War II situation happened or the transatlantic slavery trade happened because of the disobedience of the Israelites, the ancestors. But the book Leviticus 26 tells me that when this stuff happens and these punishments are being dealt out, the land is supposed to rest, but the land has never rested. So they don't work together. Right? Farmers switch plots. Hey, Grand Rising Ray. That they grow in. Yeah, it's called crop rotation. Yeah. Crop rotation is old. People know that people been doing that one. Grand Rising Clint. Where was I? Yeah, so the land will rest and enjoy Sabbath, but the land has never rested to enjoy Sabbath. As long as it lies desolate, it shall rest. For the time it did not rest, you on your Sabbath when you dwelt in. Because remember in the previous chapters, we was talking about how the land is supposed to have a Sabbath in itself and has a rest in it. I'm glad you found me on YouTube. I like it when people watch it on Facebook. Better algorithm. As for those of you who are left, I will send faintness into your hearts in the land of their enemies. The sound of the shaken leaf shall cause them to flee. They shall flee as though fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when no one pursues. They shall stumble over one another, and it will be before a sword, when no one pursues, and you shall have no power to stand before your enemies. A lot of time is spent on the punishment than on the goodness of this God. Grand Rising T, Grand Rising Danielle. It's talking about, no, it's not. If you look at the previous chapters, Ray, the talking about the Sabbath is talking about a year where you don't plant, you don't harvest, you don't trim. Whatever grows on it just grows on it, but you're not cultivating the land. Is the land getting a Sabbath? 38 to continue. You shall perish among the nations, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And those of you who are left shall waste away in the iniquity of your enemies' lands, also in their fathers, in their fathers' iniquities, which are with them, they shall waste away. But if they can, so you're gonna it's just punishment. I'm not gonna go back and forth with you on this one, Ray. It's not plot rotation. We understand plot rotation, but go read your chapters of your book. It is not talking about crop rotation. It is talking about allowing the land to just grow what it grows, but not harvesting from it. And that in the 6th year, he's going to provide you with enough food, a big enough harvest that you won't need to eat, or you won't need to harvest anything from the 7th year of Jubilee. Then in the 8th year, you go back to planting. So you're gonna have enough food to last you even through the 8th year until you harvest the 8th year's crop. And then you go back to it. You can't take how we do things today in crop rotation and think that's what they was doing. It's not what they was doing. Go back and read the previous one. Maybe lose my spot. But yeah, and you're also going to be being held accountable for your father's iniquities as well. So this is your ancestral iniquities that you're still being held accountable for. But if they confess their iniquities and the iniquities of their fathers, so in other versions, instead of the word fathers, it says ancestors. So it's talking about, you're still being punished for your father's sins at this time frame of the book. Fathers, with their unfaithfulness in which they were unfaithful to me, and that they also have walked contrary to me, and that I also have walked contrary to them, and I have brought them into the land of their enemies. If their uncircumcised hearts are humble, and they accept their guilt, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and my covenant with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham. I will remember. Could just say I remember my covenant with Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob. Spell it all out like that. And I will remember the land. So even if you mess up, this deity is saying that all you have to do is confess your sins, and then he will remember his covenant. So why did you need Jesus' sacrifice for you? What do you need it for? You don't need Jesus. According to Leviticus 26, that if their uncircumcised hearts are humbled and they accept their guilt, isn't this what Catholics do? They go into confessional, even though their version is kind of bullshit. Then I will remember my covenant with Jacob. I remember my covenant with Isaac. I remember my covenant with Abraham. I will remember the land. So I don't need Jesus. All they need is to humble themselves to this deity and accept their wrongdoing. Now, if you say that people couldn't do that, but that's what you do every time you do something, you say, oh, gee, oh, Lord, forgive me, Jesus, forgive me, and you actually repent. So what do you need Jesus for? You don't. Just thought I'd throw that in there. The land also shall be left empty by them, and will enjoy a Sabbath while it lies desolate without them. They will accept their guilt because they despise my judgment, and because their soul abhors my statutes. So they will accept their guilt, not because of his love, but because they despise my judgment. They despise the fact of how I'm going to punish the hell out of them. Right? This is fear-based. Because before I left religion, I was a Hebrew Israelite. No matter how obvious they always find something to fit their narrative. There's no difference than all the rest of the Christians. Yeah, they're always going to figure that out. They're always going to try a way of twisting it to make it fit their narrative. Yet for all that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, nor shall I abhor them, to utterly destroy them and break my covenant with them, for I am the Lord thy God. Shit, you not damn near broke their will. But for their sake, I will remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the nations, that I might be their God. I am the Lord. For these are the statutes and judgments and the laws to which the Lord made between himself and the children of Israel on Mount Sinai by Moses' hand. Now, does this not read like an abusive spouse? About a quarter of the chapter, I'm loving you, I'm going to take care of you. But first, if you obey me and keep my commandment, I'm going to give you a house to live in, clothes on your back, food in the refrigerator, a nice, yard to dwell in, a car, some money for you to go do some things. But the moment you stop obeying me, the moment you stop fulfilling my commandments, then I'm going to beat you. I'm going to give you diseases. I'm going to take your children away from you. I'm going to let animals come on. I'm going to let roaches and rats come all in the house, and they're going to bite you and the kids. I'm going to let everybody else, all the neighbors, come in and treat you like trash. You're going to be living in so much fear that the ruffling of a leaf scares the shit out of you, and you run so much that you trample all over yourself. That's what this guy said. But then, if you apologize because you didn't make my eggs the way I like my eggs, if you apologize because you questioned one of my decisions, if you apologize and humble yourself and admit your guilt, I'll be all right with you. I remember you, and even though I still may be allowing the enemy to take over you, you still may be living in squalor, I'm still gonna remember. I'm still love you. I still love you because you're still my people. You're still my lady. You're still my lady. I still love you, even though I'm punishing the shit out you. I still love you, and I'm gonna keep loving you. That's basically what this guy just said. Yep. If you apologize, I'll take you off my shit list. And you're apologizing because you questioned me. You didn't obey the way that I told you how we're going to do this house. That's not love. That is not love. Love is a scam. Because got an example. And understand when I say this is love in various degrees. So there was a young lady that I dated once. There was a young lady I was dating. I have a certain way that I need to live, right? In my house. I got a certain way I need to live. And those things were expressed. But she couldn't keep it. It wouldn't work. She couldn't keep the house the way that I need to live in it. There were some other dynamics with children that I couldn't deal with. So when it got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore, then instead of staying there and punishing, I left. I left. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I left. But the person was such a cool person, and I cared about the person. So we still were able to remain friends. We just had our boundaries. I'm just not coming over your house. We're just not going to date romantically, But still, you're a good person, just not a person for me to be in that type of relationship. So now we can have this type of relationship, right? That's how a person should be to a person. Now, here's the kicker, though. The person that she had dated before, right, was more like this God. So the person she was before she dated that person was probably more befitting of me based on what I was being told. But it was the person she had dated that was so heavy-handed with, you clean too much, you always organizing things too much, you ain't sitting down talking to me, that it changed her personality. He broke her power, the pride of her power of keeping a clean, organized house, the kids having chores, being obedient. He broke her power by being like this deity. So that when a person like me came along who was saying that, well, I can help you get back to that person that you want to be, and was trying to help and setting things up, they couldn't get past it. It's like Stockholm's. They couldn't go back to the person they originally were. That's how this God is. But when a person has been beaten down like that, it is hard for them to recognize when there's something different, when there's something better, when there's something that can bring you back to the level where you have enough pride about yourself, enough power back in yourself, that you are determining your life for yourself and not someone else determining your life. You see what I'm saying? So this God, that's why I compare this God to a spousal abuser, because this is what he does to people. He breaks them to the point in fear that they can't even see truth when it comes before them. And we've seen this so many times. I'm sure all of you know somebody, or maybe even yourself, have been in that type of situation, or in that situation, or know people who are been in that situation. That friend, that person, you knew them back in the day, and they was like all world great. And then they got abused by this other person. I'm gonna give you one more version of that. Know this girl. In high school, she was one of the baddest things in high school. Fine, athletic, smart. Bang. Started dating another guy who was one of the top dudes in high school. Well, he didn't want anybody looking at her and trying to get at her. So he kept feeding her. I'm gonna take care of you, feeding her. She gained about 150 pounds, got fat, real big, so that nobody would want her. Then he convinced her to drop out of school because I'm gonna take care of you. Well, once she got so big, and now they're starting to be adults, and she doesn't have a high school diploma, GED, nothing like that, no college, can only get us so much of a job. Well, you too big, I don't want you no more. And he left her. And for at least 15 plus years, she lived in depression. Didn't go back and do nothing with herself. She lived in depression, right? Just got bigger, worse habits, just getting by in life. And when people would tell me that she used to be what she used to be, I was like, really? Because by the time I met her, she was already in this state. But then I heard her story. But that one dude broke her to the point. Now, she got some assistance. She got some help. I'm not going to go into the help or the assistance, because if certain people listen to this, they would know what I'm talking about. But she got some help and got some assistance. And then through that help and that assistance, now way better off than she ever would have been with that guy, because that guy's, he's living an all right life. But now her life is like way greater than that dude's life. But she had to go through some pain, though, in order to get there. She had to go through some stuff she didn't want to go through to get there. And she had, in order to force her to let go of that mental state that joker had put in her mind. That's what makes this so hard for some people who are stuck in Christianity. The pain and trauma that they're going to have to go through to walk away from this book is incredibly difficult, because for them it is a loss of self if they walk away from this book. But that's why this deity is an abuser, because it puts people in that same abusive state. Let me see what some of y'all said before I continue with something. That was the end of 26. 27. Subscribe. Oh, you just now subscribing? Nah, you're all right. You're no, I stopped being a real estate agent. I tried it. I didn't like it. Yeah, I don't like real estate. I'm too direct to do real estate. You like the house? No? Okay. Why are we still here? I guess you never punish your kids when they made mistakes. Of course I punish my kids, but did I ever let wild animals and beasts consume my kids? Did I ever let them starve and say, you can't have food, I'm not going to allow you to eat? That I make them, my kids, so fearful that they hear the rustle of leaves and they go running? Hell no, I've never done that. Anything similar to that. See, that's a little Christian trick where they try to say, oh, so you've never punished your kids, trying to equate the punishment that I would deal out to my children equal to what this deity has said. This deity is beating the shit out of these people, dude. Starving these people. Your book says he starved the people until they eat their own sons and daughters. You cannot compare that to me putting my child in punishment, telling them that they can't go outside, making them squat. You can't compare that to what else have I done to them little jokers? There's absolutely nothing that I've done to my children that you can compare that to. Even if somebody spanks their children, it is nowhere near what this deity is talking about, bro. My children always ate. No matter how mad at them I have ever been, they will eat. Have I told my kids, I love you, but right now I don't like you? I tell them that in a heartbeat. And my middle child Simone, yeah, that's the only thing I gotta do to her. Simone, I'm so disappointed in you, and I do not like the person that you are right now. Well, but here's the difference. Not Jeremy. Sorry, I just saw Jeremy. This is how when I correct my kids, the first thing I tell my kids is look, you are a great son. Lincoln, you are smart, you're intelligent, you're strong, you're very civil-minded. When you went and did X, Y, and Z, now that was wrong, and this is why it's wrong. But I know that you're my son. I know you're better than that. I've seen you be better than that. You have a greatness inside of you that you haven't unleashed. So I praise my kids, criticize the activity, and praise the kid. This deity, obey me, and I give you some stuff. Disobey me, I'm going to beat the living hell snot out of you and starve you and let animals consume you and burn you and disease and pestilence, and you're going to go blind. And I'm going to hit you 7 times harder than I hit your ancestors. I'm going to hit you 7 times. I'm going to hit you 7 times. I'm going to hit you 7 times of the plagues that came before. And matter of fact, you're going to have to ask for forgiveness, not only for yourself, but for your fathers. Dude, it's not even comparable. So that's a weak argument. I'm going to need you to do better than that. You're smarter than that, Ray. You're smarter than that. Come with something better. They break you and make you seem like you're the one that can take that, can help them break. Why am I reading that so crazy? They break you and make it seem like you're the only one that can help or take. Exactly. Because this guy got people thinking that he's the only one that can take care of people. And people do need a lot of healing. And what they don't need is Jesus, exactly, Michelle. And punishment is vastly different than abuse, exactly, Jeremy. If someone starved their children or punished them in that harsh manner, right, they'd be locked up. They would be. If you had children living in a house and rats and shit was eating on the kids, they would lock you up. So let's go into 27. And 27, who was that said that they were former Hebrew Israelite? This is another one of those chapters that I point out to them, because when it says in Deuteronomy 28:68 that there will be no buyers, they'll say, well, buying also means redeem, and redeem means that God redeemed, redemption of God and all that. Say no. In every aspect, when it talks about redeeming, which it uses in 27, it's talking about money, buying, purchasing, to buy. It's not talking about some etherical redeeming. It's buying. And 27, we're going to talk about the value of your life and your kid's life. And of course, y'all already know the value of a woman is going to be less than the value of a man. Just like and this is where, I'm going to say it again, but this is where, you know how women get paid 60% less than men? It's right here. Most of the calculations on here are 60% less than men. The only time it's more is 30% is when it's talking about the older men versus the older women. But so that y'all don't have to go do the math, women get paid 60% less than men, because this Bible values women 60% less than men. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when a man consecrates a vow, certain persons to the Lord, and by a vow certain persons to the Lord according to your valuation. If your valuation is of a male from 20 years old up to 60 years old, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. If it is a female, then your valuation is 30 shekels. So 50 for a dude, 30 for a woman. And this is between the age of 20 years old and 60 years old. And if from a 5-year-old up to 20-year-old, then the valuation of a male shall be 20 shekels, and the valuation of a female 10 shekels. And if from a month old to 5 years old, then the valuation of a male shall be 5 shekels of silver, and the female valuation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if from 60-year-old and above, if it is a male, the valuation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female, 10 shekels. So basically, this is the church acting as a bank, and this is the value if you give somebody over to the church, and this is for money. Like, I'm gonna send my daughter to the church because I can't take care of her for whatever reason. But now things are better, and I need to get my child back. This is why I gotta pay the church. So I pretty much gave my child, or you're giving these people into servitude to the church. But when you want them back, this is how much you have to pay for them. And we see the value of a female is less than. Now notice, if a baby is less than a month, there is no value. You can either take this as you can't give a baby that's less than a month, or just babies less than a month don't have any value. They are defending it because they said we all have to do this. All we have to do is remember what he did by bringing them out of Egypt, and they made an oath to keep the commandments with this deity. That's what they put out there, but they don't keep this commandment. That's one of my things, because when you run through the commandments, like, okay, are you really keeping all these commandments? Are you sacrificing these animals? Are you, sitting on the same sofa as your wife when she's on her cycle? Are you really keeping these commandments? They'll keep some of the bigger things that's easier for them to do, but they won't keep all these commandments. Now there's no praises here, but if you need the praise, you go ahead. left religion and denounced Christ, the false Messiah. Okay. Yeah, well, we don't seek Yah. They say they didn't uphold their end of the agreement, and there are consequences for breaking the agreement. So Israelites try to keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability. Most of them keep it to the best of their ability and what the United States government laws will allow. What they will allow. Yeah, I don't praise any God. If a God needs praise or even desires praise, then that is not God. But anyway, so now, okay, I don't like saying people's names wrong. And none of them. If your purpose is to come on here, young lady, and just spout out, Yah is this, Yah is that, praise this, praise that, and you're not contributing to the conversation as far as text wise, then I'll cut you off. But just coming on here to continuously saying the same thing, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, not part of the conversation, that's not allowed. Because all you're doing is taking up space and trying to be a troll. And so I'm gonna give you a minute to figure that part of your life out and respect the program and what it's about. I don't mind people having dissenting thoughts. As we see, we got Ray on here, dissenting thought. Ray came on, but all that other stuff, no. All right, so to continue. But now, that's if you can redeem him. So 8. But if he is too poor to pay your valuation, then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall set a value for him according to the ability of him who vowed. The priest shall value him. So if you don't have enough, then the priest is going to set the tone. This is also part of that nepotism that keeps Aaron and his family, Moses' brother, in the money. Because that way the priests are consistent. So the priests, remember when we was going through Exodus, the Levites didn't get any land promised. They didn't get a land grant. So, and it was all part of the scam. Without them giving a land grant, then they didn't have to pay any of these taxations to the church. But they were the ones who ran the church, and everybody else got to pay to the church constantly and consistently. So this was like some smooth ass nepotism that was put in place by Moses, according to the story, for his brother Aaron and all of his generations, because this is supposed to be in perpetuity. Now, at the time frame that this is being written by the priesthood, by the Levitical priest. So, of course, they're writing it in their favor, not in the general favor of the people. Yep, it's all part of the scam. And then here's the we gotta get some animals in there. Because they like the animals. Animals have value. These were an agrarian people at the time. If it is an animal that men may bring as an offering to the Lord, all that anyone gives to the Lord shall be holy. He shall not substitute it or exchange it, good for bad or bad for good. And if he at all exchanges animals for animals, then both it and the one exchanged for it shall be holy. If it's a certain unclean animal, which they do not offer as a sacrifice to the Lord, then he shall present the animal before the priest. And if the priest shall set a value for it, whether it is good or bad, as you, the priest, value it, so it shall be. But if he wants at all to redeem it, then he must add 1/5 to your valuation. So if it's a good animal, you ain't gonna redeem it at all. But if you want to redeem an unclean animal, then you gotta pay the vig on it. You gotta pay the interest of 1/5 the valuation of that animal in order to redeem it. So that's just for dedicating animals, but good animals do not, because this guy likes that sweet animal sacrifice. And when a man dedicates his house to be holy to the Lord, then the priest shall set a value of it, whether it is good or bad, as the priest values it, it shall stand. If he who dedicated it wants to redeem his house, then he must add 1/5 of the money of the valuation to it, and it shall be his. So I can't pay my debts. Here goes my house, church. Oh shit, I made some money. I want my house back. I gotta pay 1/5 of interest on that house. If a man dedicates to the Lord part of his field and his possessions, then your valuation shall be according to the seed for it. A homer of barley seed shall be the value at 50 shekels of silver. But if he dedicates his field from the year of Jubilee according to the valuation, it shall stand. But if he dedicates his field after the Jubilee, then the priest shall reckon him to the money due to the field to the year that remains until the year of Jubilee, and it shall be dedicated from your valuation. And if he who dedicates the field even wishes to redeem it, then it must add 1/5 of the money to your land to it, and it shall belong to him. But if he does not want to redeem the field, or if it has sold the field to another man, it shall not be redeemed. So if they not sold it to somebody else, you can't redeem it anymore. But the field, when it is released in Jubilee, shall be holy to the Lord as a devoted field, and shall be the possession of the priest. So if you give it during Jubilee, it's going to belong to the priest. A lease, basically they're saying real estate has always been a good deal. But it's loans, is exactly, Okie. It's loans and interest that they set up. But the loan and interest is only on land and animals. It's still talking about the land here. And if a man dedicates to the Lord the land, did I just read that? No, I didn't. And if a man dedicates to the Lord a field which he has bought, which is not the field of his possessions, then the priest shall reckon to him the worth of your valuation up to the year of Jubilee, and he shall give your valuation on that day as a holy offering to the Lord. In the year of Jubilee, the field shall return to him from whom it was bought, to the one who owns the land and as a possession. And all your valuation shall be according to the shekels of the sanctuary, 20 gerahs to the shekels. Now, this is also like setting up a tax shelter, like trying to hide land. You got a whole bunch of land. You don't want to pay the taxes on the land. I'm gonna give the land to the church, and then I'm gonna redeem the land at only 1/5. Whereas I might have to have paid a higher valuation on that land, a higher taxation on that land if I kept it. Sounds like how we've set up our tax shelters. But the firstborn of animals, which should be the Lord's firstborn, no man shall dedicate it, whether it is an ox or sheep, it is the Lord's. Because he got to have that animal sacrifice of the firstborn of an animal. And if it is an unclean animal, then he shall redeem it according to your valuations, and shall add 1/5 to it of it. Or if it is not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to your valuation. The priest gonna get their money. But and that first, what verse are you? Oh, this is chapter 23. Chapter 27 of Leviticus. Right now, we're getting ready to start on verse 28. Nevertheless, no devoted offering that a man may devote to the Lord of all that he has, both man and beast, or the field of his possession, shall be sold or redeemed. Even devoted offerings is mostly holy to the Lord. No person under the ban who may become doomed to destruction among men shall be redeemed, but shall surely be put to death. Let me read that again. No person under the ban, you've been excommunicated because you're not obeying the laws, who may become doomed to destruction among men, poisoning everybody else, shall be redeemed, but shall be put to death. You can't buy your way out. You will be put to death. In Numbers, we're going to see a story where a man is collecting firewood on the Sabbath. He cannot be redeemed. He couldn't pay his way out. He had to be put to death, and they stoned the shit out of him. Right? Now, understand, like I said earlier, all of this redeeming is talking about money. There's money, there's payment attached to it. So when it says there, anytime somebody talks about redeem, redeem means money. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the trees, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. Gotta have that money. If a man wants at all to redeem any of his tithes, he shall add 1/5 to it. If you tithe the goat, you tithe the dove, you tithe some land, you tithe anything. When you tithe your land, because that's what you gave, if you want it back, you got to pay 1/5 on top of whatever the value of that land or that animal is, or that person. Not the person. The person has a set price. He shall add 1/5 to it, and concerning the tithe of the herd of the flock, whatever passes under the rod, the 10th shall be holy to the Lord. He shall not inquire whether it is good or bad, nor he exchange it. And if he exchanges it at all, then both it and the one exchanged for it shall be holy, and it shall not be redeemed. You ain't getting them good animals back, basically. Once you decide on the good animal, that's it. These are the commandments to which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel on Mount Sinai. That's the end of Leviticus. So Leviticus ends on some money. Leviticus ended on some money, and we're going to be starting Numbers next week. So that's the end of Leviticus. For those of you who have been with me through the whole thing, which that would be hard because it was so spotty when I first started this with Genesis. But for those of you, I know Exodus, we was in like the latter parts of Genesis and strong throughout Exodus and Leviticus. For those of you who have went through those who've been with me strong for the last however long we started getting like really in sync with this, at least a year. Well, maybe not a whole year. Congratulations, because you have read more of the Bible than most people who follow this book. 10% tithing is your monthly earnings is a scam too. It's definitely a scam. Yeah. Religious institutions are tax exempt because that's where they hide the money. That part of Leviticus just show where they are. You use Leviticus, you use the church to hide your money, hide your land. And then later on, corporations just figured out how to do it with offshore accounts and charitable organizations. All of it is a scam. The Lord sounds like a pulpit pimp because he is. And it's all designed, like I said, under that. This was written down by Hezekiah. And Hezekiah edited the shit out of the Bible. He had his priests do it. Of course, these priests are going to write these laws in order to make sure that they're taken care of. And they weren't. They selfishly were taken care of. He kind of took on the same tone that Josiah did when he edited, but they just simply edited this book to make it fit for them, and they based it off of what they thought was historical events, because to them the situation of Israel constantly being a vassal state. Abraham, the land owned by the Canaanites, and then here's the Assyrians and the Arcadians and Sumerians and the Babylonians. They're living they're writing this during the time frame that they're captives of the Babylonians, and they've been captives they've been a vassal state of Egypt multiple times. For them, they've never had this autonomy, you know. Even though they're going to talk in Psalms and stuff about how David had a kingdom and Saul had a kingdom, they've never had these kingdoms. These kingdoms have never been. That land has always been under the control of somebody else. You know, they've had puppet states set up, always. It is not until 1947 that the state of Israel, independent state of Israel, was set up. Prior to that, they've always been under somebody else's control. Whether it's the Greeks, the Romans, the Ottomans, and then back to the Romans, and back to the Ottomans, and you know they've never had their own state. And the Arabs and the Palestinians, not till 1947, I believe. So they're creating a history, but they have to create a reason why. There has to be a reason why, because otherwise this God has forsaken them. Because think about it, if you were Babylonian and you're living in Babylon during this time frame, look at what Marduk has done for you. The Babylonian Empire is vast and they conquered, you know, the Assyrians, and they're living great. Their God has done this for them. And then here comes the Persians, the Medo-Persians. They come in believing in Zoroaster, and they conquered the Babylonian Empire. But through both, Marduk conquered. Ahura Mazda conquered. But the Polar Israelites have just been vassal states. Vassal states. Why? Because we were disobedient. That's the only reason that Yahweh, but he hasn't forgotten us, but we're still under their heel. So it gives them a justification to be able to stay with this God. Because honestly, if I was living back in them time frames, I might have been like, shit, I'm finna go worship Marduk, because Marduk, they rocking over there. Oh, Darius just came in. He worship who? Ahura Mazda? I'm gonna go worship Ahura Mazda because they rocking now. I'm glad you're doing this. My husband and I started from Genesis and are now in Kings, and boy, it's some crazy stuff. Oh, most assuredly. Thank you, Michelle. And that's good that y'all are going through that together. Hopefully with an open mind. Because and when you understand how history and culture has played in it, it tells you even more about all of it. Because now you're looking at people writing based on the culture that they're in and how they believe things was happening because of their lack of knowledge concerning science, the earth, and the universe. You know, they thought they was at the center of the planet, center of the galaxy, center of the solar system. You know, they didn't know about people being in other places in the world. They didn't have concept, but they were henotheistic, but they didn't have concept of the whole world. But they believed that everybody's deity was a real deity, but that they were chosen for that particular deity. That's one reason why this God writes in such a way that he says, I'm going to kick out the people from Canaan. I'm going to destroy them. You know, and people who worship other deities, those are your enemies, because they believe these other deities also existed. They just, our God is bigger than your God kind of thing. And that was judged and based on the success of your conquest, right? If your conquest is successful, then your God is on your side. So in order to ensure your conquest is successful, make sure that you're obedient to this God. But what's crazy is when you study a lot of the religions of that day, they all pretty much did the same shit. And their religious books said the same stuff. If the Babylonians weren't the Babylonians were easily defeated by the Medo-Persians because I forgot the last Babylonian king. He stopped worshiping Ishtar. I mean, he stopped worshiping Marduk and started focusing on Ishtar and was out of the city a lot at the temples of Ishtar. And so they were destroyed. Now, the Babylonian people say they were destroyed because he started worshiping Ishtar, right? But that's not why. It's because when he was in, I forgot the name of the city that was, Ishtar was the primary deity of that city. When he started worshiping there, that joker took the damn army with him. So there was no army to defend Babylon. It had nothing to do with no damn gods. It's the fact that he took the army. And what was that city? Because I said it, I want to know what the city is. Ishtar, Uruk. So he started spending his time in Uruk instead of spending it in Babylon. And you can't take the army with you. Like Darius didn't even have to fight to take the city. According to their accounts, the priest just opened the doors to Darius of the city and let him come in without a fight because there was no army to protect them. Today, we don't conceptualize those things and how they affect what was written and how things were written. So, whose side was God on when the Germans were fighting the British? World War II. Everybody was Christian. World War I with Napoleon. Everybody was Christian. How do you account for it? The Civil War. Everybody, and I say everybody, I mean most of them. The Civil War, most of the people were Christian. So whose side was any God on? Gods ain't got nothing to do with warfare. They didn't understand the environment. So if it doesn't rain, oh, it's a drought. God is punishing us. The damn Aztec is estimated, the Aztecs, over like a 20-year period, because it was going through like a severe ass drought, human sacrifice, like I think I might be over, but I think it was like 30 million people is what they estimate, based on all the mass graves and all that sort of thing, because of a drought, a long ass droughts that they were having, because they didn't understand, they didn't have weather satellites, they didn't know how weather works. So they think that their God is punishing them. The volcano erupts, God is punishing us. But people take this on still today. Still today. People have a car accident. They have a car accident, and then because they had a car accident, then their house get repossessed or they get evicted, and they think, this is happening to me because I'm not living right by God. No, you had a car accident, made it hard for you to get to work. They couldn't carry you. They didn't have the disability don't pay you enough, and you can't afford your rent and mortgage. So now you lose your house because you had a car accident. Oh, I wasn't living right. That's why I went to prison. No, your ass went to prison because you killed somebody. You went to prison because you committed some felonies. And God was just trying to get my attention because I wasn't living right. So he sent me to prison. No, you were not a good criminal. You got caught. And that's why you went to prison. God wasn't trying to catch your attention, because there are plenty of criminals who live their whole life and they don't get caught. There was a story about a man, he killed somebody in like South Carolina. He left, he escaped out. I think he went to jail, but he escaped. Changed his whole life, had a wife, kids, was a pillar of the community up in New York somewhere. And then they found his ass after like 50, 60 years. They took his ass back to jail. That don't play. That don't play. So it's like he was doing good. He stopped murdering. He was a man. He was a church guy. He was, one of the males of the communities that took care of the community. He changed his life around. Zach still had to go to jail. You know why? Because he escaped from prison. Steve, Grand Rising, welcome to the show. You don't know God, that's why Antichrist. No, I don't accept your book. That's why I'm Antichrist for your book. You check that out about the Mayans. And it's funny when people say you don't know God. Exactly. Is that Aladdin? I'm calling you Aladdin. I like Aladdin. That was one of my favorite little cartoons watching my kids. But if anybody claims that they know a deity, if a deity created, if you could you have no way of knowing the creator of this universe. Even if, whether you accept that there's a creator or there's not a creator, if you do accept that there's a creator, the Tao says it best in the very beginning. The way that has a name is no longer the way. The way that you can identify, that you can describe, it is no longer the way. The moment you try to categorize the creator and put him in a book and give him characteristics and all this stuff, you no longer even understand it because it's impossible, it's unknowable, it's undefinable. So I'm with you, Aladdin. And that's the funny thing. You take life for granted. Actually, I don't. You better squeeze every juice of life you can get out of it. You better learn how to enjoy. And we was talking about this last night. Had some people over watching the football game. How do you know the creator? Prove it. Prove you know the creator. But we was watching the football game. You know how many people don't plan for retirement? When they do retire, all they do is sit around and do nothing until they die. That's taking life for granted. All you do is go to church. That's taking life for granted. You have no life. You haven't contributed much of nothing to life. You have to keep denying something you don't believe. It's because I teach people how to help. I help people to walk away from this religion. So you can't tell me my why for nothing. I believe the spirit attack. I believe spiritual attacks do exist, as the spiritual realm, aka energies, frequencies, exist. Not necessarily a religious dogma of God. I can see some of that, Valentina. There are frequencies and energies that are out there. Just hell, there ain't got to be something that you can't see. Just the negative energy of another person that's standing right in front of you, or that's on the other side of the country. They will try to send that negative energy will travel if you allow it in. The book was written by the Holy Spirit. Earlier, we showed how the book forget what it wrote and don't know what it wrote. If the Holy Spirit wrote it, then it wouldn't be any contradictions or errors in it. But it surely has a lot of them. Right, believing the Bible is like believing the Three Little Pigs story. Exactly. Grand Rising Brett, been a minute. What is God? Is God a noun or a verb? God is the manifestation in the four elements of the earth, water, air, fire. The one who says, I am that I am, I pause there. To me, the closest thing you can do to understand if there's a creative mind at work is to try to your best to understand nature. And we still working on that. We still don't understand nature. if you know what, I'm not. You see, if a person is having an intelligent conversation, I don't mind having a conversation. But Steve is not having an intelligent conversation. He's just spouting out stuff just as vaguely as that other young lady was on here earlier, just spouting out stuff that, just to incite people to comment at what he's saying. I'm starting to recognize that these people seek attention themselves. They say that they come on these types of channels in order for them to, they're trying to help people, trying to stop my lies from taking people away from God, or trying to get me to see God and all this kind of thing, right? But none of them present an intelligent argument for any of it. I know God. I know the Creator. You don't know the Creator. The Holy Spirit wrote the book. I put out information, and they have nothing to say about that information. Steve, tell us why in Leviticus 26, we read that one of the punishments would be that God would turn the sky as bronze and the land as iron. But in Deuteronomy 28, he said that the sky will be bronze and the land will be iron. Why is there a discrepancy there, Steve? Make that make sense, Steve. You see, if you truly came here as an emissary of this God, then you'd be able to do that. Explain that. Why is that discrepancy there? Because that should not be a discrepancy. But why is that discrepancy there, Steve? If it was written by the Holy Spirit. Tell us. Tell us, Steve. Oh, this jealous God. You can't understand scripture because you don't have the Holy Spirit. You have the Holy Spirit then, Steve. Tell us why. Tell us. Was it not on the day of Pentecost that the Holy Spirit came down to the disciples and they were speaking in tongues of many different languages, and many people came to God that day? Speak to us, Steve, so that the many people will come to the Holy Spirit. Tell us. The Bible is locked. I notice how Steve is avoiding the question, y'all. Come on, Steve. I'm not going to throw pearls to swine. Yes, that is a saying that they learned from the Hermetics that was written thousands of years beforehand about casting your pearls to swine. Exactly. It's plagiarized from Egyptian spirituality. Which, if you would accept off, telling in the Emerald Tablets, the Egyptian theology came from was initiated by the Atlantean, but they got to prove Atlantis first. And you got to prove Atlantis. Come on, Steve. Steve. You see, this is what I'm saying. Here's the difference. When I was down for Christ, when I believed in Christianity and I was, working that thing, when I came across people like myself back then, I had an intelligent debate with them. I didn't sit up here and just spout out stuff. The Bible is locked. Fuck. How is the Bible locked? That means nobody else can get the Holy Spirit, Steve. Oh, there you go. Good. He'll kill you then. Yeah, before and I'm still alive. I was supposed to, there was so many decades and days and years that I was supposed to die because other Christians came on here talking about I'm going to die. Someone was saying I was going to, in 2018, you're going to die. You're going to have a car wreck. I ain't have a car wreck at all. Didn't die because I'm still here. And how mighty Christian of you, or God-fearing of you, or whatever you call yourself, Steve, that you say that God, he's good, he'll kill you. That you praising it. You're not sorrowful that I'm going to get killed? Oh my God. Oh, were you telling Michelle that you're going to kill, that he'll kill Michelle? That's even worse. You don't even know Michelle. At least I've made about 2,000 videos, and you can talk shit about me. You don't even know Michelle. You have no idea what kind of person she is. Steve, come on, Steve. Tell us why Deuteronomy and Leviticus are in error of each other. Up now he's saying you want death. That's up to you. First he said good, okay. Now he's saying that you want death. Y'all, why y'all? You know what? Let's leave Steve alone. Steve ain't got nothing to say. Steve ain't got nothing to say. Steve is a good troll, though. He's a good troll. He's a good troll. Let's change the narrative. Him like, I used to feel so much guilt and fear under that deity. I was truly bound. The all does not place fear upon you. Exactly. It is like people. The best way I try to describe it is like all the natural laws of the universe and deeper laws that we don't even know were put into place, and it's for us to figure them out and utilize them to elevate our consciousness as best we can. If we do it in the time frame of your life, great. If you don't, then it's not like there's some judgment against you. You just keep trying in whatever level of consciousness that you consistently exist in. You just keep figuring it out. And this whole idea of punishment, you know, the fullness of that idea didn't even start to the Greeks. When the Greeks took over after the Persians, and then they started, because before that, the Israelite people just thought you went into oblivion. And then it started, and then Christianity made that into going to Hades when the Romans took over. This underworld of torment started. But prior to that, there was none of that torment shit. Now, they believe that you'd be tormented in this life. That's why we just read all that stuff in 26. Yeah, they don't have conversation. They go straight to insults. That's why, he couldn't answer. It's a simple thing. Just prove it. Just show it. Deuteronomy versus Leviticus. But as soon as you ask them to do that, they can't. They know they can't. So they have to run into insults. But I just focus on. So I don't care about them. I'm just trying. I try to figure out as much of this universe as I possibly can in this current lifestyle that I have to elevate my consciousness. That's why I would never threaten these people to say, "Oh, you're going to die, and when you do, you're going to go to the portal that fits your description of what life should be, and you're going to come back and probably be a Christian again." Or if it's 2,000 years from now, whatever religion, because Christianity won't be around in 2,000 years. There may be very tiny pockets of it, kind of like how there's only 300,000 Zoroastrians in the world today. It'll be some small, insignificant religion. Christianity, Muslim, Islam, all them religions today will be small, insignificant in 2,000 years. According to the Christian saying, God is good all the time, but then when we look into their books, we see that's a lie. God isn't always good in the Bible. He's he did some incredibly cruel thing. Plus, he said that he brought evil. He created evil. He created the calamity. It says it more than once. I can't believe what you say. What will happen after I die if you're standing right here in front of me? No, you can't. No, nobody knows. When they can control, they threaten you with hell. But no, when people come back and they say, I had a near-death experience, okay, near death, you had some DMT dropped in your brain at a heavy dose, and you had some illusions based on the conditionings that you gained throughout living your life. Things you've heard, read, other people said. Everybody always seems to see the same shit or similar stuff. Nobody has died and came back. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But what I do think that the stronger you make your mind in defense of all the conditioning that you have around you constantly, that you've been taught, that if your mind is strong enough to defend that, then whenever you die, if your mind falls into the whole creation, I think you'll create whatever it is that your mind is most accepting of. If you think there's some heaven hell situation and most people don't think they deserve heaven, their ass is going to create their own hell. That's what I think. I don't know. I could be dead ass wrong. I'll find out one day. But I guarantee there won't be no Jesus and this God. My mind is certainly strong enough to defend against any of the conditioning from this book. Any other conditioning. Knowing me, I'll probably create this situation where I'm sitting in front of this Christian guy, like, look him, bro. You got some explaining to do. Because this shit didn't make no sense. Why you put all them people through all that bullshit? You know. I'll be in a 2,000-year debate with some created deity in my mind that I'm like, your shit didn't make no sense. What's with all the animal sacrifice and the killing the babies and all this stuff, and then you're sending yourself to kill yourself for the sins that you created, that you tricked somebody into having, and to be redeemed back to yourself, and you didn't even really die. It wasn't no bullshit. That was bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Knowing my dumb ass, I'll probably create something like that. And then after a while, my mind will probably say, you know what, there's some other bullshit that I'm wasting my time doing this. What else is there to explore in this universe? People send me indie videos on people going to hell all the time, and they're trying to get me to believe in it. Oh, they certainly do. And like the one guy, I went to hell, and they were playing all the music that we listened to today. It was devil inspired. Like, come on, man. Most people still are dealing with some form of guilt and shame and fear when they die. And because of that, they manifest these, not even when they die, when they have these NDEs, that they manifest these negative things. And all of them fit pretty much like Dante's Inferno, because that's where we get most of our modern ideas of hell and the devil and all this stuff is Dante's Inferno. Yeah, religion requires a tremendous amount of faith. And all that. And we see the cognitive dissonance all the time. All the time. Yeah. I can't believe in something with no proof. I at least, when I take things to a level of where I gotta say, well, I just got, there's a belief to it, or I say I think, it is based on as much evidence as we can possibly gather, but it's not enough evidence to make it a fact. Because there are some things we just not gonna have facts on. We just not. We still are discovering different levels of gravity, different levels of torque, and all the different just natural forces of the universe. So to try to understand a deity, please, you never. That's not even. I don't even waste my time with that. I wouldn't even waste my mental energy to say I want to understand the mind of the creator, the creative mind. You never can. If there is, put it that way, if there is a all creative mind, there's no way in hell you would be able to fully understand and conceptualize that. It would be beyond your capabilities. Because if that is the situation and you are the created of that creation, the creation can never fully understand the creator, what created it. So it's not even worth the time doing it. It's not. We exist right now And no matter how close me and Angelina get, no matter how much we talk, no matter how much I try to express who I am, no matter how much I watch her, she watch me, we look at each other's actions, we will never fully understand each other. So how in the hell you think you're gonna ever understand a creator? And you can't even fully understand another person that you may dwell with for the next 50 years. Shit, you've been living with yourself for however long you've been living with yourself, and you don't even fully know you. You don't fully know you. So if you don't fully know you, and you will never, ever fully know you. Because there are certain parts of yourself that you will hide from yourself. So how in the hell you gonna know a creator? I know God. You don't know that damn God. Shut up. I just want to be in tune and connected with the creator and creation. That's why I like sitting outside. Yeah. And getting in tune as much as you possibly can. You know, I was a little jealous of Angelina on Sunday. So we was at somebody's event, and man, she took her shoes off and was walking in that grass. They got that carpet like grass. I was like, damn, I should have took my shoes off too. But that's it. You just try to get as close as you can. And some people in this lifetime, and that I do think, can't say it's a definite reincarnation. No proof of it. No factual proof of it. Some people are in lifetimes where there's only so much connection they're going to be able to get. There's only so much. Melanin is condensed sunlight. The sun is the closest to a god besides your black mother. I'm a little different with you on that one, Aladdin. Simply because of long-standing adaptations can change the level of melanin in a group of people if they're isolated from mixing with other people. So I don't think the sun has anything. I don't think melanin has anything to do with that. And then our sun is not even a big sun. It's a tiny ass sun compared to most stars out there. So those stars are bigger, produce more energy. And as far as the black mother, no, it's the black mother and the father. It's the mother and the father. Because your mother can't create shit without the father. Just like the father can't create shit without the mother. It's the balance between the two that creates. So Eve ain't making shit without Adam. Show me a woman who impregnates herself within herself, and I will show you that is not a woman, but that's a hermaphrodite. So we got to have balance. We got to stop with the putting one gender over the other gender. No gender is over any other gender. It is balance. Women used to impregnate themselves. There's no possible way a woman can impregnate herself. It is an impossibility, my guy. Because if she don't, how can a woman impregnate herself if she don't have any sperm? She can't impregnate herself. Sperm from bone marrow? What bone marrow? Her bone marrow? Most Christians believe by faith. I say faith is not stupid. I say faith is not stupid. Knowledge is superior to faith. The sun is what my eyes behold. Earth, I feel the wind, the forest tell it. Yeah. I wouldn't say faith is stupid. Only time I say faith is stupid is when in the face of facts you still hold on to faith. That's stupid. And religion is a mental disorder because it creates control, and you give up your control. You gotta have a mother and father. It's called Parthenogenesis. Y'all typing. I think I saw something on Parthenogenesis before, and that is like the super rarest situation. You can't take a super rare situation and then put that over. This is what women used to do. And everything in the universe is born from male and female. Everything is male and female. Men are mutations of women. I think you not went too far outside my box on that one, bro. Because and I don't have a box. That's trying to make something fit into a narrative. Everything in the universe, every atom, every molecule, every electron, everything has a balance of masculine and feminine. Nobody is. You can't say that the feminine started without the masculine, because that would be unisex, asexual, or hermaphrodite. Nothing starts like that. And just because you can find cases of parthenogenesis here and there or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is something. And when I look up parthenogenesis real quick, maybe, am I spelling that wrong? Hold on. How did you spell that? Because I must spell something wrong, because that can't be it. I wouldn't think it is. Parthenogenesis. Might be because I'm saying it wrong. All right, because I remember looking this up. All right. Parthenogenesis is a rare phenomenon occurring in humans, and understanding this may help us develop an explanation for such occurrences. Moreover, it may help reveal the cause of endopathic ovarian teratoma. We aim to explain. Okay, so you understand this is a rare phenomenon. Does not happen. Asexual reproduction. When humans reproduce, there are two parents involved. DNA must be passed from both the mother and the father. Humans cannot reproduce with just one parent. Humans can only produce sexually. We're not asexual. You know, this is something that you can find in worms and lizards, but you don't find them. This don't happen with humans. And I remember when I looked that up and I researched that once before, it was because of all the woman is God, the woman is God, the woman is God. And I don't know why. And mainly people did that because the woman carries the baby. But there's no society where there was a whole bunch of women that were just reproducing asexually. There are myths about that, but there's no proof of any society that was built that way. Yeah, reincarnation would, it's super hard to prove. It is super hard to prove. Everything evil inside the Bible is being repeated today. What do you mean by that one? Right? Melanin is a dominant gene and white skin is recessive. But I don't think that melanin makes a person closer to a deity or not. Your energy makes you closer to understanding how the universe functions. Yeah. And people have always been trying to solve who came first, the man or the woman. Shit. Nobody will ever know. Probably at the same time. Man, we gotta pick something to believe in. Science says we all started as a single cell called organism, meaning we all started out multiplying from a single cell organism. Is this not what you believe? Because after this foolishness, I'm confused. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. Where we come from, a human is a monkey? Nah. Monkeys and humans are not the same. We talked about that yesterday, as a matter of fact. Did the first people have belly buttons? We'll never know. Nobody knows, and I think it'll be unless some Anunnaki come down for real and say, hey, you know how that look like y'all got that artificially infused part of y'all DNA? Yeah, we did that. Let me show you how we did that. We did this way back when. And we're gonna do it a couple more times to show y'all that we did that. Unless you got something like that going on or something similar, we ain't gonna ever know. Coach, the ancient Kemet story of Asar, Set, and Set. Set murdering his brother Asar and cut him into pieces. Set gathered up his body, parts for a proper burial, and became pregnant through immaculate conception. Is that a true story? It's a true story that they told, but whether or not it happened, Asar is most likely some ancient king in Egypt at some point, and his brother betrayed him, and it probably was incestuous because Asar and Set were brother and sister. Well, Asar, Set, and Seth are all brothers and sisters, and Set wanted to marry Asar. Set wanted to marry a Set, but she married Asar. He was jealous and set old dude up. And the story probably elevated them into God. They probably elevated them into godhood, and it's all a made-up story of him killing him. But she probably got pregnant right before he died. But they said that she hovered above his penis, where the monolith that they put in place of his penis, and then she got pregnant from that. But even in that, she still had to get pregnant. She still needed his seed to get pregnant. And I'm with you, T. We have seen how single cells develop into a more complex cellular structures over time. So it's plausible. Can we prove it without beyond a shadow of a doubt? That's where life on Earth started. But it's plausible. It's a good hypothesis. A woman can get herself pregnant. Plus, if a hermaphrodite exists, that would be considered a woman particularly. So I agree with you on that. We need the masculine and feminine. Yeah, we do. Only the black woman has the mitochondrial Eve gene. That is because over time, the like Michelle said, the lighter the skin is the strength of the recessive gene. Humans, it doesn't make black people better than white people. All right, it doesn't. It doesn't make the black woman better than a Caucasian woman. It just what it demonstrates to me, and we can look at this naturally. Every animal, every plant on this planet, every living thing on this planet is naturally situated for certain areas on the planet. And that's where they're born, and that's where they live, and they do their whole thing, right? But when animals or anything migrate to a unfamiliar environment, Over time, adaptation happens. People migrating outside of the tropics began to adapt to different environments. So when you move up into Europe, you move up into China, you move into the southern parts of South America, you don't need all that melanin. So over time, adaptations, your melanin is going to decrease. And because those groups, when they moved, they were more isolated, it continues to decrease. So that ability to produce children of any color decreases in those women who have been, their families have been in Greenland. And don't think that Greenland is green, because it ain't. Most of it is ice. But been in Greenland, for 100 generations, they ain't gonna have much melanin and have no need to. And that need to produce a child that is dark skinned would be drowned out in that person over time. Consensus of ancient societies agree God created man and woman at the same time. And in most stories, man and woman are created at the same time. Even the little Bible, Genesis 1, verse, I think 26, 24, 26, somewhere in there, it says that man and women were created and told to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over the earth. Then they flip the script in chapter 2. Do you believe in science description of our creation or the Bible? I certainly do not agree with the Bible, and I think that science is more plausible, but I can't state the science as facts, but it has more plausibility. But the Bible is absolutely no. Asar is an example of a perfect man. A set is Virgo, the constellation basically a story about the sun coming into creation. Yeah, and you see that every December 25th. Yeah, it is a probability because you can't prove that a woman was first. You can't give it facts. See, I refuse to say something is facts if there are no hardcore facts. Even to say that the woman was made first is a probability statement. It is not a factual statement based on what you accept with parthenogenesis and some of these mythical, and melanin and all that sort of thing. But it's not facts. I think people say that women are, I think you mean gods, because they form the baby inside of them, and then once the baby is born, they feed it. Yeah, that's that whole. I remember when the woman is God stuff started getting popularized, and back then, the big argument was because the baby they nurture the baby inside and then they feed the baby. But I was always like, they could have never gotten that baby without a dude. So how that's gonna work? If we are aliens, I need them to come back and pick me up because I don't want to be here. I don't like the humans. All I have in my chat feed, man, just this person just doing nothing but being contradictory to you. You're on YouTube. You don't see everybody's statements. Okay, you don't see like Debbie's and Thomas and Michelle. You should be able to see everybody's comments. You can't prove that man was made first either. If you're basing it on somebody, and I can use the Hindu story, or I can use the Ifa story, I can use anybody's story, because everybody has their own story. Brother, can you read Aramaic or Hebrew Bible backs up science? No, it does not back up science. I did a video yesterday where the science of the Hebrew, uh, the Aramaic and Hebrew says that the sun and moon were created, and then for at least 1,000 years there was no rain on the earth. And with the sun and the moon in place, that's an impossibility for there not to be rain for 1,000 years. Scientifically, that does not work. And that thing when people say, "Well, can you read Aramaic or Hebrew?" is a cop-out kind of statement to make a person think that, well, you don't know what you're reading or studying because you can't read Aramaic or Hebrew. The fact of the matter is, everybody leans on somebody. No, everybody stands on the shoulders of somebody else, but it's peer review that allows you to stand more solidly on anybody's shoulders. So you don't have to read all the languages of the world and the ancient languages. There are so few people who can read it. And then even at that, those that were written, these things are written over a period of hundreds of years, and language changes over those hundreds of years. So it's not the same. This is why the Sumerian Akkadian story has so many differences in it, because you're talking about a story that was being told and retold for 3,000 years at least, and the language of the Sumerians and the Akkadians consistently adapted, just like we speak American English. But the English that we speak today, there are subtle differences. Certain words have differences than what they had when I was growing up. Just use the word awful. You look at the word awful and think that it is something, oh, that was an awful tragedy. That was an awful car wreck. It meant 200 years ago, you used 100 years ago. 200 years ago, you used the term awful. You meant it was full of awe. It was something, you only used it when it was something was amazing. But then it started being related to storms like that, and so it became a negative term. Eve never existed. So this planet is billions of years old, and we had to start from somewhere. We're not a special species because of our abilities to think. Hell, I don't even think that we were who we are more than 100,000 years ago, because there's been geologists and other scientists have suggested that there's been at least 5 major extinction events that have happened on the earth. So we don't know what type of civilizations may have existed prior to us. Can't get a man without a woman. You can't get a woman without a man. I didn't say that too many times. I'm not gonna say that again. That conversation is now just going in circles. In the earliest study of the gonads of the fetus remains indifferentiated. That is all. All fetal genitalia are the same and are phenotypically female. After approximately 67 weeks, the gestation, however, the expression of the gene of the Y chromosome induces change that results in the development of the testes. This is true, but think about this. If a sperm with XY enters into an egg, that's going to be a boy no matter what. If it enters as an XX, it's going to be a girl no matter what. Just because it develops later doesn't mean that it was female. It was never going to be anything but male. So that argument really doesn't stand, because you would have to be able to say that it cannot be a male, but it has to. That's just like when people argue about, and I'm not trying to get into an abortion argument, but within the abortion argument, they'll say that, well, it's not a human until it reaches a certain stage of development. What else can it be? Is there a point that it can be a goat, that it could be a gorilla, that it could be a squirrel? No. When the XY chromosome from a man and it hits a woman's egg, it's going to be a human. So there's no, oh, it develops over time and then. No, it's a fucking human the whole time. And when my daddy's sperm hit my mama's egg, I was going to be a dude, no matter what. There was no way I was going to ever be a female. So that argument really doesn't stand because it's illogical. What am I bringing up Timothy 3:14 for? And read it. Tell me what to say, man. Adam and Lilith were, got to the Lilith story. You see, because I think you was talking, you was talking about Eve. I said Adam and Eve never existed. Just because the Bible says somebody existed doesn't mean that person existed. There's no proof those people existed. And I think Timothy 3:14 talks about how Eve first transgressed or something like that. That's because the Bible says so. There was no Garden of Eden in the sense of the Bible. I could just say, forget the Bible. I can go with the Sumerian story and say that, well, it was the Garden of Eden with Adapa and Titi. And the sin was the fact that Titi was pregnant. And then Enlil was like, y'all got to get out of the garden because now if y'all can reproduce and live forever, y'all might overthrow us. So you can't know our science. And they shortened man's days. Because that story, they had 2 children, Cain and Abel. Sounds very familiar, right? Which was a story that was written thousands of years prior to anything of a Hebrew ever existing. So that doesn't rock. Oh, I must be way behind. Okay, if the Jewish story is your only truth, then it's your only truth. You cannot prove it, and there's so much to disprove that story. But if you believe in it and it makes you a moral person, keep believing it. You would never even know the original translation of anything that you're reading because there are no original translation. Everything that you read is a translation from some other previous translation. There are no originals. Because even when you're learning Hebrew or Aramaic, you're learning somebody's version of Hebrew and Aramaic that you're learning. You're learning the accepted Hebrew and Aramaic from somebody, right? So how do you know what you're learning is the true Hebrew or Aramaic? You're learning what somebody else has said is. This is why they argue over Zechariah's ascension, because people are trying to say that, oh, he's not giving you his translation of the cuneiform is not the right translation of the cuneiform. But my translation of the cuneiform is the right translation of the cuneiform. It's still a debatable question, right? So how do you know you actually learned the actual Hebrew one? You learn the one that fits the narrative of the person who's wanting the book to say what they wanted to say. I'm not contradicting myself. I like when people try to say, explain, how did I contradict myself? I know this is the first time, this is at least my first time ever seeing you. But if you don't know me, understand this about me. Vague statements they don't get play. If you're going to say I contradicted myself, express how I contradicted myself. Just being vague don't mean nothing. Oh man, I must be way behind if Michelle making a comment about what I said awful. Let me just skip down the way y'all at. I'm tired of being that far behind. If you read the original text, you can. There are no original texts. And then people argue about the Masoretic text. Okay, details about the Masoretic. And there are some differences, but yeah, and there are different, and that's the thing. There are differences between that. Of course, they are. That's a myth. Your Bible is a myth. The Hebrew story is a myth. It's a myth. You think that y'all believe that this guy was dropping manna from heaven and that he was coming down into the tent of meeting with fire and smoke and flames and descending on mountains with fire and smoke and flames and sending all this stuff? It's a myth. It's the same way. Now, see, that's funny. I say the Bible is that its story is a myth. He tells me to prove it. Prove the Sumerian story is a myth. You call that a myth, prove it is a myth. You know, it's like yours is a myth. Yours is a myth because I said it's a myth because I believe in my Bible. But then your stuff gets called a myth, prove it's a myth. But you have not proved that theirs is a myth. It's a video. Okay. Email me that one. Healing Light. Oh, dude, don't with the Sodom and Gomorrah, they found sulfur balls that can't be found anywhere in the world. Guess what? That same story of Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed is in the Sumerian story as well. So what makes it your story? Because the Sumerians told it first about Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed. So if you're going to say that that's a true story based on them finding the sulfur balls, then the Akkadians and Sumerians told that story before the Hebrew people told that story. So wouldn't that make the Sumerian story? Wouldn't you be proving the Sumerian story instead of your Bible story? I mean, we have more artifacts from the Sumerians than we do the Hebrew. No, Sumerians are not Semitic. The Akkadians are Semitic, but Sumerian is not Semitic at all. And that's one of the things that is kind of interesting to archaeologists, is because you can kind of trace every other civilization to previous civilization, but the Sumerians, there's nothing that traces. It's like they just popped onto the scene and they got this whole language that doesn't fit any other language of ancient times. So it's like, where did these people come from? And where did they develop from? And nobody knows where the Sumerians developed from or came from. But they're not Semitic. But the Akkadians are Semitic. And the Akkadians adopted the same stories as the Sumerians, but changed some of the names, of course. The Sumerians didn't worship Baal, but those names were interchangeable. Just like Yahweh originally was a Canaanite god and then became a Hebrew god. But Yahweh, the oldest mentioning of Yahweh is Canaanite, not Hebrew. I don't know how we I don't know what you were trying to write that word. Prove its DNA says we are. We are what? Canaanite is Semitic. But understand, the Canaanite Semitic god of Yahweh had a wife named Asherah. And then it wasn't until Hezekiah editing the Bible in the 500s that he said, no longer will we worship. That he changed it and got rid of Yahweh having a wife Asherah. So prior to the Hebrews, they had that. Now there are ancient Hebrew temples in Israel, which would have been in the northern kingdom of Israel, where they demonstrated that those ancient Hebrews worshiped both Asherah and Yahweh. But the southern kingdom of Judah, which was not going into Babylonian captivity, they got rid of Asherah once the captivity was over. In Sumeria, not Sumeria. Sumeria is a later culture from the Sumerians. So this is a different culture. So when the Bible talks about like the Sumerian woman or the Good Samaritan, that's a different Semitic culture. But the Sumerians from Sumer, those were different people. And those two cultures weren't related at all. Now, these people of Sumer just kind of got absorbed into the Arcadian society. They dwindled and absorbed into that. Thank you for emailing. No, Lilith and Asherah are not the same person. Lilith come from the Sumerian and the Arcadian story. When you look, if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, they have the Lulutu tree. So effectively, people, those desert dwelling people, thought that the Lulutu was this demonic spirit that lured people out into the desert, lured men and specifically and children into the desert and killed them. Or when somebody experienced crib death, that it was the Lulutu that killed them. And this was supposed to be an evil feminine deity, which then later in Hebrew Kabbalism became Lilith. But Asherah is different. Asherah was Yahweh's wife, because in the Canaanite, that was his wife, which actually Asherah was the wife of Enlil from the Sumerians. But the name was pronounced a little bit different. I have to keep my little graph for all of that because but Ninlil was also called, is possibly the Lulutu as well. But the name was Asheralut. It was Nashab, but it's also called Asheralut. Asheludu was Enlil's wife, who is also Asherah, because Enlil is also to the Sumerians is equivalent to Yahweh. See, we have to understand these people all lived together. They kept interchanging their stories, just like the Romans took over the Greek stories. Yeah. Okay, if you read the Enuma Elish, then there's a part in there where Gilgamesh wants to get immortality from Ilnana or Ishtar. She tells him that one of his trials is to get, I think, a crown and a crow or something like that from a Lulutu tree. And then from the Lulutu tree is that, and the Lulutu tree is supposed to be this evil demonic feminine energy. See, all these stories, when you track them over history, they migrate other people's story into their stories. Just like when we was going through Genesis, and we showed that there was a Semitic dude named Yusha, something like that. He was like a high council with this other pharaoh. This other pharaoh had a dream that they were going to go through, and he translated the dream to say that if we don't rebuild the temple of Amun in this city, then the city at the south of the Nile, in the southern part of the Nile, then we're going to experience 7 years of famine. So then he went and built it, and then they didn't experience 7 years of famine. This story later gets changed into Joseph breaking down a dream of 7 years of famine, 7 years of feast from the Pharaoh. So, but it's a story that was, but the other guy's story was told like 700-800 years prior, and then this story is being told. And then that guy, he has his wife, he gets married to a woman, and then his people are brought into Egypt. But then all the slavery and stuff didn't happen. All of that didn't happen in that story. So then the story gets changed to fit the current culture. Hey, I have no problems with you taking my videos and making your own points to it. That doesn't bother me at all. You have my full permission to do that. You will never get a copyright infringement from me at all, because we don't have to agree. You say you don't believe in karma and that you believe in cause and effect. What did you mean by that? I thought karma and cause and effect were sort of like the same thing. No. So karma, think about it like this. Karma is you do something bad. Like, let's say you murder somebody. Let's go extreme with it. You murder somebody, but then 10 years later, somebody murders you. You didn't cause that's karma. Or somebody murders your child. That's karma. You rob somebody and then your child goes off to college and your child gets molested. That's karma. Cause and effect is I went and murdered somebody. I left evidence and then I go to jail. My causation of murdering somebody and leaving evidence caused me to go to jail. There's a direct connection between the two. Karma doesn't have a direct connection. I wasn't doing something right and then some other stuff happened in my life that was negative, but they're not connected with each other. Cause and effect. Either I'm the causation and I get my effect, or somebody else is the causation and I receive the effects of that. So karma, I know some evil ass people who've done some evil ass things and they just living a good life and lived and died the good life. Many overlaps texts stolen from other mythologies. Mm-hmm. And that's how most mythologies work. When people are close to each other, they overlap. And then some stories are just common. You look around the world and there's always these stories of two brothers who go against each other. How have we read the same scriptures but have two totally different conclusions? Because I don't have a landing point of where it has to land. If you believe that the Bible has to be true and has to be correct and that like God is good, then you have to make it work for yourself. You have to believe that that's what happened. But when I read it and I see that it says something like it didn't rain from the time of creation to Noah, scientifically, that's an impossibility. So then that can't be correct. So that's how we get different understandings. And then when I will read all the other texts and put them in their historical timeline and see how one group plagiarizes the next group, and understandably why. And to those people, mythologies were meant to be malleable. They weren't to be hard coded. That's why these stories changed, and people were used to it. That's what they did. We are a civilization after the Romans. Well, yeah, pretty much after the Romans, where everything had to be exactly that, and it can't ever change. So uncivilized tribes. I wouldn't call them uncivilized. They were civilized. They had rules. They had they had governments. They had systems of bartering or community. So they were civilized. But yeah, they were more connected to nature and they had more things right than some of these other people. And everybody looked at the stars. And then when they looked at the stars, they created stories. I appreciate you subscribing. No, I wasn't trying to tell you Yeshua. What is, Joseph, and it's, but there's a comedic story of a similar guy named Joseph, who had a similar story. Okay, you're a Jew. I'm just curious, what kind of Jew? Because actually, one of my best teachers that I ever had was a dude named David Hasid. He was one of the curators at the museum in one of the museums in Tel Aviv, and I learned probably more about the ancient cultures and traditions and thought process and history from that dude than anybody else. Your parents, your bloodline was Hasidic Jews? Okay. Oh, you live in the UK? Cool. Oh, oh man, if y'all ever go to the UK, Don't plan a whole day to go Stonehenge. You only need about 25 minutes once you get there. Look at it and leave. It was so boring. But we were just talking about the UK last night. We were talking about London. I have an uncle that live in Banbury, and I have cousins that live in London. But I was just curious as to, because different, as you know, different Jewish people have different. They still look at things differently, and that's the thing about it. Even people within is, you question how you and I can read the same thing and have disagreement. It's the same way that people within the same religious group read the same stuff and still disagree. I guess we're gonna be on glasses today. Why does God punish sin of the children, but it clearly says in Deuteronomy 20, 24, 27, and Ezekiel that it shouldn't happen? Because it flip flops. We just read in what was that? Was that 26 or 27? Which one had all that punishment? 26. In Leviticus 26, we just read that you have to look for forgiveness for the sins of your ancestors. You know, when people say the God doesn't change, this God does change, because, and you have to understand, the God changes because it's not like one person sat down and wrote this. You got an untold number of people who are writing this over centuries of time. And as the culture is different century after century, you're going to get these changes based on the time frame. What is your belief on the false Khazar conspiracy? Is quite racist and infactual. My thing about the Khazars is that I haven't seen enough evidence to show that they have a direct bloodline that most of those people adopted is Judaism. I know some people say that they are the Edomites from Issue, but I could have swore that somewhere in Psalms or Proverbs they talk about David killing all the Edomites. So I'm wondering, how can the Edomites still be around if David killed all of them, according to the story? But it's a story, though. It's not reality. But I look at it mostly as people who adopted the religion, maybe from people who actually left Israel back in the day, whether it was through the Roman government, through slavery. Because once Rome took over that area, well, even when the Greeks took over that area, people start to spread out. One of the problems that Rome was having with the Jewish people was they were starting uprisings or defying Caesar all over the Roman Empire. So there were Jewish people who started out in Judea, who moved into Europe, who moved into Northern Africa, but they weren't going to have a statue of Caesar in their synagogues, and they didn't want to do all that stuff. So there were uprisings, and they were looking for this warrior messianic movement. So it's possible that their lineage does come from those groups of people who were in those areas for centuries. But most of the people of today, I think, who are in those areas can't draw a bloodline because they intermarried with Europeans and North Africans. And you may or may not be able to draw your bloodline from there. But they have attached themselves to the religion, which is also a culture. And when Europe gave that state of Israel, of course, the European Jews were going to get this larger stake in it, because the racism that Europeans had, we're going to play into that. But who's the true Jews and all that? Hell, I don't think any people know. I think you're a real Jew if you believe in Judaism. That's the simplest answer. If you believe in it, you're a Jew. You're a real Jewish. All this bloodlines and stuff, most people can't even trace their bloodlines that far back. And you're right, T-Saw. Humans are the only ones. We are so out of balance with nature. Like, if you can't live somewhere butt-ass naked, you shouldn't be living there. Georgia gets too cold. We are tropical beings, and we are designed to live tropically. We're designed to live and consume only what we need, not over. We have overconsumption. Like Smith said in The Matrix, we are a virus. If religious people simply destroy themselves, the world will be a better place. We still gonna have some messed up people though. Oh. Well, DNA and science can prove the genes, a rare gene only Jewish males share, and that's the Ashkenazis and the Sephardic, a priestly gene, aka, but that's a fact. The only problem I have with DNA is we don't have DNA from the people who existed there, say like in 500 BCE. You know what I mean? You're taking a scan of people's DNA who live in that country now, but how many different mixtures have they had? Think about it. They've been conquered by these. There was the Sumerians ruled, then the Akkadians, then the Assyrians, then the Egyptians, then the Assyrians came back, then the Egyptians again, and just all this constant. Then it's um, the Greeks, but you also have migrations of people from Persia who came in, from India who came in. Then you got the Romans, and it's just a whole mixture of so many people that then you people are we are all so mixed up for the most part. There's so many mixtures. So trying to decide, oh, these are the people. Well, if you're just looking at the people who live there today, that's not really telling you the people. Hell, look at Egypt. It's mostly Arabs now, but the Nubian people and the Kushite people, they once ruled that area. They were in that area, and you had such mixtures of Greeks and Romans and all kind of other people in Kemet. How can you truly identify the DNA from today to people back then, because we have mixed so much? You're only looking at what the majority of people who are there now, the scope of people that they have now. Appreciate the compliment. Um, and you're right, Vanny. You is not really a phenotype. So you gotta. So what is those people there? And people back then were more tribal than we are race. Race is a made up bullshit. Um, in truth, by some Europeans in the 1500s. But Jews are still secular. Even then, we stuck to our own. It's forbidden to go with someone who's not Jewish. That's why only Judah and Benjamin survived. Come on, man. You really believe that? People didn't stick to their own. Even when you look at Benjamin, they went over. What is the story? When they went and stole a whole bunch of daughters. Um, when they were in Egypt, just coming out of Egypt itself, they had a bunch of mixtures with Egyptians when they came out of Egypt. So even before you get to Benjamin and Judah, there was already a bunch of mixtures with Egyptians, according to the story, and there were mixtures with Canaanites, and you got hell. When you look at David, his what I don't know how many great grandmothers you go back, but Ruth is supposed to be a Moabite woman. Moses' wife is a Moabite woman, Midianite. So there's all kind of mixtures. Well, before you even get to who you talking about, Jacob and his sons, right? And then we don't know what the identity of. Okay, so Rachel and Bill and Leah, those are Laban's daughters, who were still in the Sumerian city of Ur, more than likely. But the two slave wives, Bilhah and the other chick, we don't even know who or what they were. What tribes they came from. So we don't know. It does seem like evil and corrupt people have always seem to be living a good life while getting away with a lot of evil actions. We got the powers that be. All right. them Rothschilds have done some messed up stuff, and Rockefellers, and Mayor Rothschild lived and died very well. Is because they know the universal laws and we don't. I do think that that's part of the reason they know universal laws and we don't know them, but they also utilize their power to maintain their freedoms, to keep their securities and things of that nature. You know, you got in today's world, you can commit a crime, but if you got the right lawyers, you get away with it. OJ. I don't know to what extent he has something to do with it, but I don't care what nobody's saying. You can get mad at me, but he has something to do with it, right? So, but a good ass lawyer, and he just living his life fantastic until he does other stupid shit. So you can't be Jewish because you love me some Egyptian girls. Humans even give animal races. Yeah. Oh man. What do you mean by Ruth was so gracious? I don't know what you mean by that one. Oh, gracious and devout. God let her come into the olive branch. Yeah, but see, you said the purity of that. That's what I'm saying. Trying to figure out the DNA. She was of a whole nother group of people. You know, that's what it's just such a mixture that I don't think anybody can claim any levels of purity. You know, it's just like when I hear black people talking about, oh, I'm Moor. I'm like, Moors or mixtures of people. You're talking about Arabs. You're talking about South Saharan Africans, even some Europeans. So Moor is not what we today call race. They were a group of people who decided we're going to be together and be unified as one, which is what all these tribes or whatever, we have a commonality of government, religion, and so and culture, and we're going to call ourselves this. And that shit changes. And race is BS. Yeah, race is it's one of the worst things that could have ever been created was race. Because we seem to love to do everything we can possibly do to separate ourselves from each other. And through that separation, we create our own evil from that. You know, and this is one reason why I can't get down with this book, because the moment it starts talking about chosen people, you're creating separations. And I understand back then people had their gods for their cities and everybody had their own different gods. And most people were henotheistic and believed that my God exists for me and your God exists for you, but this is my God. My God, this God has chosen me. And everybody was the chosen people. You know, the Babylonians felt like they were the chosen people of Marduk, right? And in Egypt, the shit kept changing depending on who was the pharaoh. And most situations, whoever was in charge decided it. So when you got all that separation, all that does is create war and it just creates war and disagreeable situations between people where they oppress each other and all those sorts of things. And get stoned to death by your God. Yeah. This is, I don't know what you mean by there was no intermarrying. You talking about people back in the day, they intermarried like a champ. And understand, marrying shit. Marrying, just get pregnant, have a baby, have sex, you married. But that is the biggest problem. That if you want to solve a lot of the world's problems, get rid of race, get rid of tribes, nations, get rid of all that bullshit, and a lot of the world problems will be solved. You know, You're gonna need a few generations to go by for people to stop pushing that bullshit. But I know most Christians, you tell them one world government, and all of a sudden, oh, it's the Antichrist. Well, look at what all these separate governments have gotten us throughout the whole time frame of recorded history of these last, we got about 12,000 years of recorded history. What benefit has a separated world done, given us? Not much. Not much. Yeah. And whoever was in charge, think about most of this situation, whether it's the priest or the king, most of whoever was in charge, they taught the people that I'm in closer contact with the God, and that's why y'all need to follow what I say, because God's telling me. Because if you look at everything that we've been reading, it is God said to Moses on Mount Sinai, tell the Israelites this, that, or the third. The pharaohs were, I am the embodiment of God. The Pope, I am the embodiment of Christ. It is always the Roman emperors, I am the embodiment of Jupiter, or there's always these same things, Heracles, or Hercules, what we call him, Zeus came in the visage of my daddy, had sex with my mama. I am the son of Zeus and my mama, a special birth. And I completed my 12 trials, and when I completed them and ruled over Argos, and then after I died, he ascended into the stars. The leaders always make themselves more special to the people, direct connection with God. And since religion was central to existence of people back then, they obeyed it, because of not obeying it gets you all them punishments that we read about in Leviticus 26. Don't nobody want to go through all that. So I'm going to obey this. Oh, you say I gotta make sacrifice to Dionysus or Diana or whoever? Let me make my sacrifices, because I want the blessings of that God. And that's the beauty of science. To me, the beauty of science, other than just making our lives easier to live, because I wouldn't want to live in Georgia without air conditioning or centralized heating, but it also gets rid of a lot of these myths. It makes you look at these people and say, oh, the gods live on top of Mount Olympus. And then somebody climbs Mount Olympus, and there ain't no damn God said, oh, well, that's because they're like interdimensional. And you got to get into an interdimensional spirit in order to see the gods living on top of Mount Olympus. Or you got to have the Holy Spirit to understand the Bible. The gods live in Mount Kilimanjaro. Now it's a damn volcano, tectonic plates and magma movements causes the volcano to explode. Oh, so then we got Otomari and Oshun. We got to figure out something different, because science will jack that shit up in a heartbeat. But people, that fear of, one, religion is centrally taught to people as a code of morality and life for them. So for some strange reason, people feel like if they didn't have their religion, they wouldn't have their morality. But that's not true. I know people are born to atheist parents and are taught the moralities of the culture to which they live in, and they're still good moral people. They don't rob, they don't steal, they don't kill, they don't rape, they don't do all these things, because their atheist parents live in a country where all that shit is illegal, and they have that morality in themselves. So that's bullshit that atheist people don't have morals. But for religious people, their morality comes from their religion. But even more so, it comes from the same place that the atheists get theirs, which is the culture that they live in. Then the whole fear of death and what happens after death keeps people caught in their religions no matter what. They gotta have that, because people want to be assured that something good happens to them when they leave this planet, because we go through so many negative things on this planet that we want to believe that after we've suffered this life, there is a reward. And then hell came into play. Oh shit, I need to live good by this thing, because If if Earth is this bad, I definitely don't want to go to hell, and I want the reward, you know. And so people stick to these religions. It doesn't matter. That damn cognitive dissonance is a beast. Remember that story in the Bible where they intermarried and the priest killed them both? Which story is that? I can't grab that one right off the top of my head. Though I doubt classism, do you think a one world order will ever eliminate racism? Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. Um, like the Romans didn't have racism, but they had classism. Like if you became a Roman citizen, then you were better, and they didn't care. Dark skin, light skin didn't really matter. If you was up to Roman civilization levels, they respected you, but you had to become Roman. So it was more nationhood, right? But now racism, it would take a long ass time. Let me put it that way. It's possible to get rid of racism on a large scale, but it would take a very, very long time in order to get there. All those previous civilizations, they didn't have the racism thing. So it was your nation. What group you was born into. That racism thing be hard, but it can go. Because with one world, then it's just a citizen of the world. And then that would also allow for people to live, in more diverse areas. You'll be able to diversify more areas. So people will stop believing in the lies that have been told about areas. Um, the priest killed the race mixers. Oh, now I don't remember that one right offhand, but since next week we start Numbers chapter 1 and 2, we're going to eventually get to 25, and we'll break that down. But yeah, it would be. I think that it'll be a better situation over the long haul than what we live in today. They didn't have to anything to see the gods back in the day, supposedly. So what's the issue with us now? They didn't have to. Wait a minute. They didn't have to anything to see the gods back in the day. They didn't have anything to see the gods back in the days, supposedly. So what's the issue with us now? I'm not sure I understand what you mean. So they couldn't see the gods, and neither can we. Now, according to the Sumerians and Akkadians, the gods walked with them, like Enlil and Enki were present with them, like they literally fed them. They clothed them. And then later on, once the gods left, they had statuettes, and they fed and gave drink and dressed the statuettes. Which then you see that in the Hebrew culture of them kept taking the tent of meetings everywhere they went, believing that he existed in the tent. Hebrew man married a Midianite woman. Is that the one where the Hebrew man marries a Midianite woman? They kill them, and then they go and kill all the Midianites to keep the men from marrying those women. Is that what that story is? Because I think, yeah, I do remember that story. And it was like mainly to keep their men from leaving and going to these Midianite women because they were losing their dudes. And then I always question that. Midianites and Moabites, I got to research it again to make sure. But I think Midianites and Moabites are pretty much the same damn people. So they killed all the Midianites. How can Ruth and Oprah be Moabite women. But I have to research that again to make sure I'm right about that. But I could be wrong. But I always thought about that because I think the Midianites are the priestly line of the Moabite people. Yeah, because they worship all of them. And that's the thing. If you look at this book, one of the reasons why they're so hard, one of the reasons, there are multiple reasons, but one of the reasons they're so hard on women is because they know if that woman got that good poom poom, a man would change his religion. It keeps happening in this book. What was the problem with Solomon? All that he started, them women had that good poom poom. He started getting down with their gods and their deities. In that story, the Midianite women got that good poom poom, started getting down with their stuff. Look at your boy Moses. Your boy Moses, although he grew up with the Egyptians, he was going out there. He knew he was Israelite, but he got out there. He met his Midianite wife, getting that good poom poom. It was time to circumcise the son. He was like, I ain't circumcising nothing because my wife, her group don't do that. So I ain't worried about it. And then this guy was gonna kill Moses after he told him that. You think he would have said that when he first talked to Moses, but after they was on their way, he was like, oh wait, I just saw Moses' son Ping Ping. He still got foreskin on it. I'm killing you, Moses. And so what did his wife do? She cut that foreskin. See, God, that poom poom is a beast. Oh, but we definitely go. So you know what direction I'm gonna go in when we get to Numbers 25. You already know what I'm gonna say about that part. At least one thing I'm gonna say about it. But it is. I mean, you see that today. I've seen plenty of people where they're getting ready to marry somebody and they have different religious beliefs, and most of the time, the dude wind up going into unless a dude is hardcore into his religion, he will go and start participating in whatever that woman's religion is. And when you have like different denominations of Christians, you'll see that as well. Like he's Baptist, she's Methodist. They get married. Now he's Methodist. And it was all because of that poom poom. Oh, I'm Robert. I don't know if you're talking to me or not, but yeah, man wrote the Bible. I don't know. I don't think any deity wrote it. Christianity and especially Islamic religions are in its infantile stages of brainwashing. Yep, I agree. I agree. And you have to brainwash people. It's funny. People are scared because they talk about how Islam will become the largest religion by 2050, right? But when you read the study that talks about that, it doesn't become the largest religion by 2050 because of truth or evangelism. It's because the birth rates of Muslims are higher than the birth rates of Christians. So it's indoctrination of children at birth that will make it a larger religion than Christianity. We got you, Robert. Man wrote the Bible. We agree. God didn't create religion, man did. It's about a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Oh my gosh. Okay, Sylvia, that is Sylvia, right? Yeah, Sylvia. Um, Religion is a set of rules, rituals that a person has to follow in order to worship a deity. We just read again in 26 how this God, and throughout the Old Testament, set up a bunch of rules and rituals for people to worship that God. And that was the relationship they had with that God. You follow my commandments, obey my rules, and I'm going to give you all this bounty. Same thing with Jesus. Same thing. You obey these commandments. What is the greatest commandment? to love the Father and keep his commandments. If there be a second, it is to love the neighbor as you love yourself. Still got to follow them rules. I came not to destroy the Old Testament, not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. The fulfillment of that law is just a Messiah that comes and advocates for you. It is not to get rid of the Old Testament. He said he ain't destroying the law. So it's a religion. The term religion in the 80s, when all these David Koresh, 80s and 90s with David Koresh and Falls Gates and all that, religious people started seeing the term religion as being a negative. This is what we was talking about language earlier. When I said that there are examples of language and how we change. And this is the purpose of the video I did yesterday. Yesterday's conversation was supposed to be about this for the most part, but it was all over the place. Well, it wasn't all over the place. Yeah, it was. But because the term religion became affiliated with all these little David Koresh and Falls Gates and all these people, all of a sudden, in the late 80s and 90s, religious people start saying it's a relationship. It's a relationship. When I was growing up in the church, wasn't nobody talking about relationship. It was all about the religion. But those negative terms, religion became a negative term. So now it was relationship. And even relationship is losing its flavor. So now they're trying to use the term I'm spiritual. But you're still following a religion, so you can't be spiritual. In 40 years, it'll be something different. Just like the term woke got changed from what it originally meant to something different now. Language changes like that. And you can't have a relationship with a deity that you can't even define and know. Dude, Robert, we got it. Add more to the conversation, my guy. He said the poom poom is what makes her God. Now, if he would have said that, Dwayne, I would have been like, you got it, bro. What do you mean by the divine paradox? What do you, Marcus? There is a much longer video about the divine paradox in my playlist on YouTube for the book, The Kabbalion. It's very, because the divine paradox is there's a lot to it. But I'll give you a short answer here. Let me see. What do you define the creator or the all as? Do you think the all expresses itself through every living thing in nature? Yes and no. The divine paradox is that the all is in all, but all is not the all. So to put it in the term of using the word God, that God is in all, but not all, but everything is not God. So because there is, if the all was this piece of plastic right here, then this plastic would know that it's the all. It could never, because the all could never not be its full self nor not know itself. But because we all, but according to the Kabbalion, but because we all exist as a mental projection of the all, a thought of the all, then that means that we are energetically the thought patterns of the all. But the thought is not the all itself, because it can never be, because it would know that it is the all. If the all was you, then you would know that you are the all and not be questioning anything, because you would know everything. So that is the divine paradox. How can the all be inside of everybody and everything, but not know it's the all, but the all is everything and everybody? And that is because we are merely the thought of the all. Spider-Man is the thought of shit. Why did I just forget my guy's name? And y'all know I love my comic books. But Spider-Man is the thought of the author. But the author is not Spider-Man. So Spider-Man can never be Jack Kirby. He can never be Jack Kirby. But Jack Kirby is in Spider-Man, because aspects of Jack Kirby is part of Spider-Man's persona. The paper bulls explain a lot. We talked about two of the paper bulls that initiated the transatlantic slave trade in a video not too long ago. The first non-religious country that forbids religion and worship and stands morally responsible are going to control the planet through its future children generation. You know, when you look at Norway and Denmark, they are two countries that are considered the less religious, two of the less religious countries in the world, but they have the highest. Stanley is the other guy. Thank you. They have some of the best school systems, the best social programs, some of the best medicine, the best medicines. So, yeah, if Norway and Denmark were the larger country on global scale, you're right. If a country like America was non-religious, then their potential will be fanatical. Actually, you can somewhat see that in China. When China was pure communism, of course, they were suffering. They weren't as great. But China being pretty much a non-religious country and then opening up more opportunities for people, you saw in the last 30 years, 30, 40 years, how China came on strong in the world. And they are very strong and keep going. And they do not push this religious doctrines are not part of their fabric. People have religion in China, but they not all crazy like the rest of the world, like a lot of portions of the world is about this religion. Because religion inhibits some of the greatest programs and things that could be part of society is inhibited by the different religions. But yeah, I think if America had took a true non-religious stance, the power that it could exert around the world would be tremendous. If it just looked at people as people, if you took out the racism and it just looked at people as people, it looked at resources as resources. The benefit of a country the size of America and the resources that America has could influence the world enough to make the world a lot better place. But because of the religious impact on it and this greed that is within it, we suck. This country sucks. Y'all's country sucks. For y'all who live in America. For all you, no, I can't say for y'all. For y'all who call yourselves Americans, I'm a POW. I'm a POW. I actually like if Canada had a lot, because Michelle is up in Canada. If Canada had more resources, it would be more natural resources. It would be a much bigger player on the world scene than most other places. Like in Canada, they actually a Bible that the Bible that has anything negative towards the LGBTQ and a lot of the child killing stuff. I think they passed a law in Canada that says that you can't publish those books or sell Bibles that have that stuff in there. And then they took it. I think they also took it out of the elementary kids level schools that they don't have Bibles in there. You go to an American library, I don't know if you still might, but you still might have Bibles in the American libraries at these elementary schools, right? You'll let them kids can go read that about all the genocide and murder, but not but certain other books they can't read. Oh, what are they doing in Florida? Oh yeah, slavery was good for the black people. They want them to read that kind of stuff. Let's not read the horrors of slavery, but we can read the horrors of the Bible. See a POR, prison of religion. Hey, I'm POW here in America. That's why I need y'all to keep sharing these videos and keep watching them and that sort of thing, so that this channel can grow, so I can get to the point where, I can take care of some things, and then I'm out of this country. I'm leaving. I ain't coming to Canada because it's cold up there. You can keep that all to yourself, Michelle. Don't do cold. But I'm damn sure leaving here. And pretty much most countries got all that religion stacked all up in them and everything anyway. But I'm gonna have to deal with that no matter where I go. It's like all the countries that don't have a high religious thing, they're cold. They're cold ass countries. Like, I'm not going to China, it's cold. Canada's cold. Denmark, Norway, cold. Can we get some warm culture, warm climate countries that are doing away with all this religious rhetoric? That would be a beautiful thing for me. But I can get down with, like, some of them are not as intrusive, you know? Like the Hindus are not Hindus and Muslims are not so intrusive on your life, you know, to where now some of them, depending on what country, of course, you know, there's a big difference between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. So there's a huge difference. That's why when people say, oh, the Muslim countries, man, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Tanzania got a half and half. Very different. You know, very, very different. You go to India, most Indian people don't give a damn what your religion is. They going to do their own thing. Just don't mess with them cows. But every country has different cultural rules that you don't mess with, that you don't do. It's like you kill a dog in America, your ass about to go to jail. You kill a dog in some of these other countries, okay, what you for dinner? No big deal. Totally different perspectives. You say born 1,000 years too soon. I certainly am as well. My band is in Saskatchewan, Canada. It's even colder there. Oh, you're in a band? What kind of music? Didn't think I was gonna be able to say Saskatchewan, didn't you? So the book of Kabbalion mentions the concept of the divine paradox. Yes, within the law of mentalism, there's a whole subchapter on the divine paradox. We talked about that in one of the videos that I read. We did that and read the whole book, the Kabbalion. So in my playlist, look up Kabbalion. Yeah. But yeah, there's the divine paradox. Oh, I love Kabbalion. The Kabbalion is like one of my favorite books to read over and over again. Brick started yesterday? Oh, I gotta look that up. Oh, next month. I was gonna say, I would think one person that I listen to for financial stuff, I would think they would have been losing their shit. They've been talking about that left and right if it was started yesterday. But she was talking about something totally different yesterday. Okay. But we are about to wind it down, ladies and gentlemen. We have got you know, I gotta shoot some more other videos for you guys. I need y'all to share them other videos. Them videos I posted yesterday. I need everybody to go share them. Share them. I need this algorithm to blow up. And yes, I ain't trying to be like some of these lying ass people. You know. I want my channel to blow up so I can live the life that I want to live. But I ain't asking y'all for no money. I just want y'all to promote the channel. Let them pay for it. Facebook, the ads. So, you know, people like, oh, I want y'all to blow the channel up so that I can spread the message and help so many people. No, that's a part of it. I want to help people who have chosen to walk away. But I like life. Plus, the channel blows up. Then I get a few things situated. I look forward to going to a bunch of different sites, and because y'all know I love my history, going to these historical sites and being able to like do an in-depth video at the site. Oh yeah, I have food cooking in this conversation. We about to end it as well. You're welcome, Michelle. I got to see if I can get the book to come out here. It's on Amazon. Yep. So y'all keep subscribing, keep staying, keep commenting, keep sharing. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Today's Tuesday. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, Wednesday. Y'all have a great day, and remember always you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration. And we out.